Welcome to episode 25 of the Hike or Die Outdoor Adventure podcast. Craig, what is better than listening to me talk about fitness and exercise?
Mate, nothing's better than that.
I disagree. Listening to somebody who knows what they're talking about would be better. In this podcast, we've got a fantastic guest. His name is Chase Tucker. On Instagram, he goes by the name of Chase Mountains. He's a legend in his field, and he's going to tell you everything you need to know to get ready for the mountains. Craig, do the music thing. Thank you, as always, to our regular podcast sponsors for their support. Topo Maps Plus, a phone application that allows you to view topographical maps and track your location even without cell phone coverage. Go deeper into the backcountry. Rios floating polarized sunglasses with 100% UV protection for the love of water. Bluey Merino, Australian superfine merino wool base, mid, and top layer garments. Where our story ends, yours is just beginning. Caribee, one of Australia's leading backpack, travel and outdoor brands. They supply us with dry bags, waterproof day packs and expedition bags. Supporting our sponsors allows us to continue to produce this podcast, so please jump online and check out what they have to offer. G'day guys, how you doing? Look, before I jump into the podcast and the introductions and everything today, I just wanted to just make a quick note about, I guess, the state of the world. I thought it would be, in a sense, wrong not to say something, although I don't want to get into details and I don't want to unpack anything because there's just too much. There's just too much information to kind of deal with there. What I wanted to do, though, is share a bit of an observation with you. When I was going through, as I do, I often check our podcast statistics, and something that I kind of take pleasure in is when I read through the interesting and weird and wonderful countries that have listeners of this podcast, and it just blows me away. And I was saying to Craig just before we came on air, I don't even know, I've never heard of, there's one particular country, I've never even heard of it. Never in my life have I heard of it, and we've got listeners there. So let me just go through a couple. This is not every single one, but Russia, Iceland, Japan, New Zealand, Ukraine, Poland, Chile, Brazil, Germany, France, Spain, where our guest is from tonight, Morocco, Bolivia, Zambia, South Africa, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines, Japan, China, Mongolia, US, Canada and the UK, Ireland, Sweden, Norway, India, Thailand, Cambodia, stick with me, there is a point to this, Saudi Arabia, Zambia, Peru, Argentina, Bangladesh, Kenya, here's a country I'd never heard of, Oman, Lithuania, Turkey, Romania, Latvia, Greece, and Finland. If I've missed your country, I do apologize. We do appreciate you listening. Now, when I was looking through that, Craig, I was thinking, isn't that incredible? The different cultures, the different races, and the different people that are listening to us. And then it kind of occurred to me that what was extra special about that is we've obviously all got a deep appreciation. I would assume that all of our listeners have an appreciation for hiking or the outdoors in some shape or form. Mm-hmm. And I thought there's a connection there. I'd share the trail with anybody, any one of our listeners. I know that because we've got so much in common. I'd even share my trail mix. But my point is, we've all got something in common, and this is just one aspect. And perhaps I'm not articulating this as well as I could, but I really didn't want to rehearse it. What I'm saying in a nutshell is we're all on the same planet. We all have a lot more in common than we think. And guys, just share the love. Just pass it around, pay it forward. Yeah, it's as simple as that. So I don't really want to dwell on that any further, but I did want to say that I hope everybody listening is safe, healthy. I hope your families are safe and healthy. And look after yourself, look after your friends, and I guess look after strangers as well. Just look after you. Just look after everyone. How's that? Share the love. All right, mate. How's that?
Mate, that was beautiful, actually.
Yeah, all right. I just wanted to keep it
very thoughtful of you, mate.
Fairly simple. Well, as I said, I toyed with the idea of not mentioning it all, and then I just kind of felt like just ignoring it would not be a way of ignoring it and avoiding it, because it would have been a heck of a lot easier for me not to have to say that. But there it is. I said it.
No, we're thinking about you guys. Everyone's got their own shit going on. I hope it settles down and we can all, come out on the other side.
Yeah. Excellent. All right, I'm going to just try and lighten things up a bit now. Craig, how's my beard looking tonight? Just curious.
It is looking better. It is.
Better. Okay, good. I'll take that. I'll tell you why, and to be honest, be totally honest. Episode 25 has a sponsor, and they are called Jericho Australia. A really cool story behind this business. They make handmade beard grooming products, and they use all natural ingredients. What I really like as well is, hang on, let me just touch on some of these ingredients. Almond, coconut, hemp seed, and peppermint oils. So not fake scents, we're talking about the oils. Also mango, shea, and cocoa butter they use in a lot of their beard balms and stuff like that. What I really like about this business as well is that it's veteran owned and operated. And starting this business was a solution to a problem. After the owner left the army, he decided he was sick of shaving every day, so he was going to grow a beard. And as us bearded folk often find, we start to get, how'd you say it? Well, I think on their website they refer to it as beardruff, which is the beard equivalent of dandruff. So yeah, just dry, itchy, all those sorts of things. I don't know if listeners know, if they've seen on Instagram or whatever. I've 99% of the time I'm sporting a beard. Sometimes it's enormous. Other times it's not so big. Listen to some of the scents that you can get on your face, Craig. Salted caramel, vanilla liqueur, peppermint, espresso martini, fruit fusion.
Mm-hmm.
They sent me one called Suits and Cigars, and I really didn't know what to expect, because the other ones, they kind of, what salted caramel is going to smell like. But Suits and Cigars, man, that's sophisticated.
That is.
And bold.
Yeah, yeah.
At the same time, it's got a hint of sweet on it, and I do like it. I couple that with the peppermint oil, and it is a pleasure in the morning to get out of the shower and put these oils on.
I apologise. It's not a laughing matter, Mac. Actually, I'm going to start to grow this thing a little bit. And...
You need to grow it just to experience these. If you know beards like I do, you know that when you're in the wilderness, it's your first line of defense. So look after the damn thing. And smelling good never hurt anybody either. Jump over to jerichoaustralia.com. At the moment, if you use the promo code HikeordieTV, all one word, all capital letters, you'll get 15% off anything in their range. That's a pretty good deal, right, Craig?
Sounds good, man.
That's it, jerichoaustralia.com. I will put all of that information in the podcast show notes for you. Good stuff. Mate, how are you after all of that?
Hey, thanks, man. I'm pretty fine, thanks. Doing all right.
That's all right. Looking after yourself.
Yeah.
I'm just going to have a sip of coffee while you tell us something interesting.
Nice coffee too. Thanks for bringing that around, man. I don't know. I've just been, back at work, working hard, and then around the house here doing some stuff. We're still not able to get out into the wilderness around here. But I think the time is near for us to get out and adventure a bit more.
Yeah, it's definitely I was very good during, when we had a complete lockdown. I was very good at deliberately focusing on being content within that space of my property and almost deliberately not thinking about the outdoors.
Yeah, you said that last time, and I've actually realised that I'm not planning anything at the moment outdoors wise because of the risk that it may not be able to be done. So
like you'd be let down.
Yeah, so trying to be content with where I'm at, as you said, it's a challenge.
Yeah.
And that's where it's at.
I think there's an opportunity to focus on other things. But like you say, these at least where we are, we've had significant lifts in our restrictions. So it's just a matter of time before Craig and I get back out.
Yeah, we started hearing that, and I love that people are putting out there, where's the first place you're going to run for, head to, where are you going after this all? You can start to get that happening, eh?
Yeah, I think it's about time. I think you and I should pencil in something because if not already, very soon we're allowed to stay overnight in national parks.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for.
I think it's now.
It's now?
I think it might be right now. I feel like...
Queensland did that thing.
I feel like your shock is telling me that it's incorrect. Let's just say...
No. It is now because in Queensland they've allowed us to travel. Does that mean overnight camping's on?
Yeah, look, let me just say it this way. Whatever area you're in, whatever country you're in, check your own regulations. Don't listen to me.
That's right.
I'm pretty sure that at the moment
we
are, if not right now, as of the 1st of June, in the very near future, we were allowed to camp overnight, and I believe our travel is unlimited.
Yeah, travel's good. Staying overnight in the park.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a thing.
What are we doing this weekend?
I was thinking of that, actually. I actually think I might take the four-wheel drive out this weekend.
Yeah.
And just take the family and run through
some puddles.
One of the national parks. Yeah. Do you want to come for a drive?
Let's go get dirty. Yeah.
Yeah. I think another friend of mine might come. So let me decide on a day with him and let you know. It'll just be a real relaxed thing where we take a bit of a picnic and chuck the kids in the back and just those I'm talking about the Dagular forest there. Just driving up to. I know this doesn't make sense to anybody except people in our area.
Here we are just planning our weekend.
Yeah, just planning our. Just happen to have the microphones on. So drive up to Woodford and then spend sort of half a day driving back down through the
telegraphs and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then pop out at the gantry and then drive home.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll watch this space.
Watch this space.
Sorry, guys. You're not invited. It's just Craig. I don't want 15 cars turning up.
Yes.
Hey, have you heard of What Three Words? Have you heard of that?
No.
What Three Words is... it's just one of these weird, funny things that someone's come up with this idea. Every single square meter on the planet through this website, every single square meter has a word attached to it. Doesn't have to be related to what's around there, but it's just every single square meter on the planet has a word attached to it. I think there might even be an app. I really should have. I think it might be app-based. So Right now, we could look up your front yard, for example,
Mm.
and you could stand in a particular square meter. Use obviously a GPS on your phone will tell you where you are, and there'll be a word associated with that 1 square meter. It could be, well, hopefully it's coffee, right? But it'll
That'd be
just be
good.
a
Yeah.
word.
Right.
And you step in the next square meter, and it's a different word. And this goes on for a bazillion. It's just all over the world, right?
Really?
Okay, yeah. So don't worry, I didn't know about this either. Uh, there was some missing walkers, hikers on Flinders Island, I believe. Maybe I should just open the article. It's been a few days since I've read it. And yeah, so injured hikers on Flinders Island.
Using what 3 words it says?
Yeah, so what happened was, I believe they couldn't explain exactly where they were to the ambulance, to the rescue crew. They couldn't explain exactly in detail. They didn't know how to. They had phone reception, at least in parts, but they didn't know how to explain or use GPS coordinates or whatever. They couldn't tell authorities exactly where they were. Now, if my memory serves me correct, it was one of the responders that, sent them a link via SMS to a service called What 3 Words. So they've got a link because they could get texts, SMSs. So they've opened the link, and then he said, tell us 3 square meters around you, what's the 3 words? And so I think they actually said what the words were. So you could even look up exactly where they were. I'm sure it says what 3 words. Oh, here it is. Rare causes rocked is that 1 square meter. And the reason you use the 3 is obviously to triangulate that. Perhaps, and I don't know, perhaps there's another square meter somewhere else on the planet that's called rocked, but it'll never be next to causes and rare.
Right.
So what they've done is they've said to they've sent this text to these people and said, tell us what 3 square meters you are next to. And they've said rare, causes, rocked. They've pinpointed exactly where the people are within 3 square meters and gone there and rescued them.
That's surreal.
It's how bizarre is using a bit of a fun app to oh, hang on, that wasn't where why is this one? We were able to, oh no, the 3, it says here that the 3, I don't know why that's got maybe that's just an example.
Of the actual words.
Yeah, that one, no, because down here it says they were able to confirm their 3 words were murky founding spoonfuls.
Nice.
Either way, that's how they this lady had an injured leg, and she got saved.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what they're saying later on in the article here, that long GPS coordinates can cause stress and confusion for some people. So, and they didn't have an EPIRB, so they were basically didn't know how to convey a technical GPS code. But anyone can just say, "I'm at Murky Founding Spoonfuls. Come and get me."
Well, it happened during our conversation with Chase from Chasing Mountains, but my mind is blown again now.
Oh, wow, that's twice
It's
in
blown.
one night.
That's awesome.
So I reckon you'll probably put that on your phone, won't you?
I might.
You could.
I still don't fully understand it. I think I'm going to have to sleep on that one and let that sink in, that actually that is pretty cool.
It is cool because you can never have that combination of words anywhere else, so they have to be at that spot if the app on their phone has said that they're at that spot.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of gold.
Jeez.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. If you get lost, you need it, right?
There you go, guys. If you're not into explaining GPS coordinates,
Yep.
download what 3 words, and if you got reception, send that to the old rescue crew.
So you're right.
This one, this next article here that I was reading through, it's no real surprise. I thought about not even including it. It's no real surprise, but the title of the article is "Some Gym Junkies Are Seeing the Benefit of Exercising in the Great Outdoors," and I thought, well, of course they are, because it's awesome, because we know about it, we do it all the time, and I thought it was kind of pointless including this article, but as I read further and I thought a bit more about it, I thought, well, you know what? It's kind of cool that the gym restrictions are exposing people, within reason. Obviously, if they're not allowed to go to national parks, that's unfortunate. But if they are still allowed to do those things, but just not go to a physical gym, then a lot of people, like one particular guy in this article was saying that he obviously doesn't have access to, the heavy weights and everything that he would normally do. But after, a couple of hikes, and he noticed that there's kind of unexpected benefits, and that it was less, he felt better. And he thinks it was because it was less impact on his body. So he wasn't training huge weights to failure. He was getting out there and using his body in a functional way. And, I mean, that dovetails pretty well into our guest tonight as well, really.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, it's not, there's nothing in there. I don't read the article and say, oh, wow, that's so profound. I would never have thought that. But I most certainly was happy to hear that people are turning to the outdoors, where they can and when they can.
Silver lining, isn't it?
But because you never know, and I think it's pretty, easy to say that there's probably a percentage of those people that when everything simmers down, they'll probably continue to incorporate the outdoors into their workouts more than they would have. I've never been a gym person. I can't, no offense to anybody who goes to gyms, I can't stand the places. I can't stand being inside walls. I don't like stationary equipment. There's just so much I don't like. Egos. And I know I'm grossly pigeonholing and exaggerating, but we all know those places exist, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's a fact. Like some people, you feel silly walking into a gym if you're not buffed, but everyone has to get back into shape or, in some way. So anyway, it's just interesting. I thought it was cool. And like I said, if people continue to keep that as part of their workout beyond this, then it's probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Earthquake alert. Have you heard about this one? Almost a dozen earthquakes recorded in clusters near Yellowstone Park within 24 hours.
Really?
Yeah. Struck by nearly a dozen earthquakes on Friday, according to the US Geological Survey. They were ranging from... they've been hit by additional 34 quakes in the past month. Roughly, the strongest one was 3.1, but they're ranging from 1.6 to 3.1 in magnitude, which is about 3 miles deep, 4.8 kilometers deep into the earth. That's pretty crazy when you look at it like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they do say that.
Isn't it like a big volcano? Because I've been watching that story for a long time.
No. It's not a volcano, man. It's a super volcano.
Yeah, that's what they say, yeah.
Yeah. It's a super volcano. There's only 3 in America, I believe. Or sorry, on that continent. There's only 3 super... Yeah. Yellowstone New Mexico and Long Valley in California. So yeah, it's got a super volcano. They say it's not really a big deal. They're not worried about it erupting soon. Probably not for 1,000 years. So yeah, probably a while before we see it. However, in the unlikely case that it did erupt, it would not be good for anybody. So if it was going to erupt, it'd probably do it in 2020.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
Which I think is people's main concern is, right, okay, so you want to add that to the mix?
Jeez.
So yeah, sorry guys, I'm not trying to make light of what's going on, but but it really the timing of it couldn't be any more ridiculous, could it?
No. All
right. Excuse me. Hey, let me have a sip of my coffee. I was thinking, that's interesting. I think I forgot to put my full notes in for the Tom's Magical Mystery Media mashup. I've just put in a couple of notes there, but I haven't actually put in... Oh, sorry, that's all for one. Wow, I'm sounding super unprofessional tonight. I only have one. Mm-hmm. It's a film by Mammut. I think that's how you pronounce it. Are you familiar? They're a gear brand.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's a little elephant or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a lot of YouTube channels like Salomon, a lot of the big brands are obviously investing pretty heavily in some beautiful little short films. This is a film that I watched called Choices, and it features a lady called Steph Davis. I didn't know anything about her, didn't know who she was. I didn't really know anything about climbing anyway, but it just kind of captivated me and ended up watching the whole thing. So she was originally a rock climber, and there was I don't want to give too much away, a series of unfortunate events through her life with her partner dying, and it's tough to watch. But then she's basically come out of that and just decided that she wants to be a base jumper. So
right,
yeah, she's just gone, okay, I'm done with climbing. I need something else, and started learning to base jump. And now she base jumps with her new partner, and I think he was already a base jumper. And they just showed all this cool footage of them doing that together. And bit of a warning, gets a bit teary, certainly. When she's recounting some of her experiences, I got a bit emotional there. But it's just a beautiful little film. Hats off to Mammut for putting that together and putting it up there. I think it's a standard short film. It's somewhere around 17 to 20 minutes or something. But it's just a fun little film.
You're very sensitive, aren't you?
Oh, mate, if you haven't worked that out by now, you haven't listened to this podcast enough. Wait till you listen later on. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to do a couple of shout-outs. This is quite funny. My notes are all over the place. Oh, no. We're all good. Okay, so I got a message from Roland. This was on Instagram after we released the last podcast. And he says, "Hey fellas, I'm in Cairns and I've always loved listening to your podcast. I always get a good laugh out of them. Funny guys. Not sure if it's funny or more awkward and unorganized, but I'll take funny. I'll take funny guys. That's fine." He knows we had a bit of a break, but he's super glad to listen to the new stuff. This is another example of a listener who's been around for a while and secretly listening, and we don't know. We see the numbers. There's people listening, but every now and then people just choose to reach out, and it's just really nice. So he's also said that his parents, he's got the idea that we like coffee somehow, and his parents run a coffee place, and he said, I'm going to have to try and hook you up. So that's very kind of him.
Sweet.
No obligation. Love it. Good on you, mate. And he says he really loves the stuff we do and wants to do something for us in return, which, again, extremely kind. And he says, keep those podcasts coming, boys. Well, we're here, mate. We're doing it again. We're keeping them going. Yeah. Really appreciate the message. This is a funny one, Craig. Excuse me. This was an email that I received from a guy called Joe. Joe's a Englishman. Don't hold that against him. I deliberately said that because he sticks it to me later, so it's all good. Yeah, right. He's living in Germany at the moment. So it's a very long email. I really appreciate the time, Joe, that you've taken to write in such detail. Some of the key points I'll lift out from this is he wanted to say thanks and well done for creating great podcasts. Thank you. I appreciate that, Joe. He said he wanted to let us know about the impact that the podcasts have had on him. He's relatively new in that he's only started listening earlier this year. He listened to the 2019 hiking year in review that was the first episode he listened to.
Okay.
And what he said about that was he went for a run one evening, and he likes to put on, it's funny because he says, I tend to prefer running to relaxing music. And I thought, well, there's nothing more monotone and relaxing than us talking. So I'm surprised he didn't just kind of pass out on the trail. But he says he sticks it to us that your long-winded stories and funny banter make great company. He says, a smile grew across my face as you mentioned not only my favourite book, Born to Run, but also YouTube videos from Bo Miles, which I'd also watched not long before.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, that's
great. So then he said he went back to episode 1 and started going through them all. Again, I'm not sure that that's, healthy. I don't know. But thank you very much for that. He does. He's done hiking, camping, and cycling and all sorts of stuff. But he's looking to take on the old, to enter, how does he put it? He's going to enter into the hammock argument finally.
Oh, cool.
Tent versus hammock. Yeah, so he's just about to purchase a hammock, which will be interesting. And he says that he was inspired to kind of get out more and share some of his photographs and stuff like that.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, extremely thoughtful email, and I really appreciate that you reached out. He also says, he signs off, this is a funny, you'll get a laugh out of this. Please don't be offended by me describing you as rambling on. Just a touch of friendly banter. And I'd...
I like that.
And then when he signs off, he says, Joe, in brackets, male.
Perfect. Good on you, Joe. You stick it.
Yeah. That's directly referencing an awkward situation in the last episode, which was a live Q&A.
Mate, look, it's probably been going on for several episodes before that. We don't know.
It was before that too, because I talked about this person on the previous one and referred to them as a female on that as well.
Yeah. Even
So,
face to face, you have difficulty with this sort of stuff. I'm
nah,
sure.
I
I'm
don't know.
sure.
If you don't have a beard, I just can't work it out. It's too hard.
It could be.
Oh, that reminds me. That message from Roland. Now you just because I was the one getting
No.
ribbed by Joe. Then I'm sure there was. Yeah, this is good. Bear with me. It'll be worth it.
It will not.
Yeah, it will totally be. My phone's taken ages to. So I read out the message from Roland, but there's a really funny bit of banter when I was talking to him in a DM. I thought it was funny anyway. Where is it? Whoa, there's a lot of conversation there. He said, I'll see if I can sort out some coffee for you fellas. And then he says, what strength do you like? And then he says, I don't think Craig will mind, as it'll probably be half whiskey anyway.
Yeah.
I
Just
thought,
gotta go with whiskey.
Oh,
right?
he's been listening for way too long.
That's no problem.
Yeah, he also says that you can tell how much he's listened, because he says if you have some chocolate coated coffee beans, they'll help you power through the dungeon.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, geez, I'm glad I remembered that, because it was all geared towards me for a second there. And
Nice deflection, dude. Yeah.
well, that's all the interesting stuff I've got, mate. Do you want to give us any insights before we jump into our conversation with Chase?
Mm.
How did you feel about that?
Oh, the conversation.
Yeah, with Chase.
Awesome, mate. That was so cool. I think, we picked his brains on some deep and meaningful stuff about exercise.
We did. I think we scared him a little bit.
We did.
Took him to some places he wasn't ready for.
Yeah, but he knows his stuff, and it was really nice to have those chats. And as I might have said, I think I just newcomer to what he's up to, and it was great to have that conversation, get to know him pretty well.
Yeah, I think it was also great to have somebody with such experience, also such specific experience, in that he's not just a like a strength and conditioning coach, but he specifically gears all of his stuff towards hikers and climbers. So he's really in the pocket for us and everyone listening, and I really do think you're going to get a lot out of it. He's a great fella. Had the best time having a laugh with him and having a conversation. I was going to try and sum him up, summarize what he does, but as I mentioned it, when I'm speaking to him, it's hard to, like, how do we explain who you are and what you are, because he has a long list of qualifications, from an expedition leader to altitude trainer and all sorts of things. So I'll leave that for the conversation, but he does explain all of that very well. I think
Aussie guy, spent some time on the north side of Brisbane where we are.
Yeah, he used to live right near us for a while.
Now he's in, where are we calling? Spain.
He's in Spain. Yeah, he's been there for 2 years, and at this point in time, I think he's quite happy there. So, yeah, I hope you enjoy this, guys. Again, no matter where you are or what you're up to, I hope this podcast brings you a little bit of joy, a little bit of love. If we can spread some of that around, that'd be nice. Take care of yourselves. Take care of others. Have a fantastic time listening to this conversation. Do stick around to the end of the podcast if you can stomach it, because Chase is giving away some of his programs to 5 lucky listeners. So yeah, listen to that and find out how you can be part of that, because it'd be great to share some of his teachings with you guys. All right, all good, Craig?
All good.
All right, take care, guys. Are you still with us, mate?
I am. I'm good. I'm intently listening to you guys.
Talk rubbish. How are you anyway, mate? How's your day been?
I'm really good. Yeah, I had. I mean, as well as things can be at the moment, there's so much craziness happening. But yeah, I woke up and had a meeting with a new client and an Australian guy.
Yeah.
So, and I haven't had an Australian one-on-one client for a couple of months. So it's good to be able to speak in my
your native tongue, mate.
In my native tongue.
Oh, you're gonna be at home tonight with us.
I do. This is only my second podcast, and the first one I felt like, I mean, in general, I feel like I've got to tone down my accent a bit because people just don't understand me. Like,
yeah,
I live in Spain. For anyone that's
I was just about to get onto that. I was just going to say that whilst you do sound like a fellow Aussie, for our listeners, you're actually based in Spain at the moment. That's correct, isn't it?
Yeah,
and
it is.
How long have you been over there for?
It's just clocked over 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Yeah, and I haven't been home yet. And I was actually planning to come home this December for Chrissy, but I don't know if that's going to be able to happen. So we'll see, I guess.
Can you tell us a little bit about the kind of area that you're in more specifically? Are you closer to, I mean, your videos that you record are from your back balcony, aren't they, for the most part?
The most recent ones have been,
And I can see mountains in the background.
Yeah, well, specifically, there's one very beautiful mountain called Montserrat, and it's a beast. I mean, I've been here for 2 years, like I said, and I've been doing my best to discover all these different trails, and I just keep discovering more and more trails, and it is really, it's a maze. Like, if you were to look at it from a bird's eye view, it is just made to get lost in, and I really love that. That's one of the things that really has always drawn me to the outdoors, is just the idea of getting to stand somewhere completely new and look around.
Yeah, especially within the same kind of mountain range, but to continually be exploring, that's pretty cool.
I'm an hour from the actual Pyrenees, like the main range that separates Spain and France.
I think you'd be well impressed to know that Craig and I have done the poor man's Montserrat.
Oh, yeah? Oh, yeah. The one on the Gold Coast.
There's, no, where was it?
Mount Barney.
Mount Barney.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
Camped up there.
All three of us.
There's really good spots up on that hill. I've only been up there once, maybe twice, but it's really good because you get that vantage point of Barney.
You do.
And it really feels like you're in true wilderness. And in fact, I guess you are in true wilderness there, because there's not really that much around.
No, well, from memory, I took my father there, and we camped there for 2 days down near the stream, and we did summit Montserrat. Got a cracking shot with Barney in the background up the top there. But yeah, you drive for at least an hour on some pretty gnarly four-wheel drive tracks, pretty steep, and then after that you still hike for at least 2 hours.
Yeah.
So you're right, you are getting into the middle of it there.
Hot tip is that the sun comes up just behind Barney there in the mornings. It's perfect.
Yeah, see, Craig actually camped up on top, whereas I camped down the bottom and just hiked up one morning with my dad and then came back down. It's a top spot.
I'd be willing to bet that name originally comes from the naming of the mountain that I'm living right next to.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I bet.
And I bet there's no comparison. I'd say it'd be pretty cool where you are, mate.
I mean, I when I'm up on Montserrat, I constantly compare it to Mount Barney, because I lived in Brisbane for 10 years.
In Brisbane, did you say?
Really?
Yeah, I lived in Brisbane for 10
Oh,
years.
whereabouts?
All over the place.
North
I
side or
lived
south side? Come on, mate.
Yeah, that's it.
originally I was a North Sider. I lived in Kelvin Grove.
Perfect.
Very good. Right
And,
near us.
Yeah.
And then I jumped ship and I went to the south side. I lived in the Gabba.
Oh, that's not too far south. We'll still accept that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Cool.
I was very kept it central in a very hipster kind of way, I suppose.
Yeah.
City.
And so you compare it to Mount Barney, the mountain behind you there.
For sure. It's I mean it's actually Mount Barney's actually higher than Montserrat.
Okay.
Oh, is that right?
And it's so it's super similar because you have these multiple peaks. I mean,
Oh,
Montserrat,
aren't they fun?
they say Montserrat has like 600 peaks, but they're all very tiny. Like you look at they're called Las Agullas, which means it's Catalan and it means the needles. So the north western section of the mountain is called the Needles, and there's I don't know maybe a couple of hundred peaks there, just these individual rock spires.
Oh, right.
And then that's all surrounded by quite dense, almost like rainforest kind of jungle. And then, but it's also really quite a dry, arid sort of environment. And so, that you can compare a lot to Mount Barney. And when I lived in Brisbane, Mount Barney was my, it was like my sanctuary to get away from Brisbane. Like I would either go to the coast and go for a surf, or I'd go out to Mount Barney, or if I didn't have much time, I'd go to the Glasshouse Mountains.
Yeah.
But Barney was definitely my favourite, either that or Mount Maroon. Because if you're on Maroon, you're looking at Barney in the same way.
Okay. Yeah.
But you're looking at Barney from Montserrat. So
yeah, I'm pretty familiar with like Craig lives close to the city, actually right near Kelvin Grove where you used to live. But I'm up about 30 minutes from the Glasshouse Mountains, so I do a fair bit of trail running through there. You may be familiar with the Dungeon. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Oh, lots of our listeners are, because I never shut up about it. Behind Mount Biwa, actually starts in front of it. There's a 10K trail that's called the Dungeon, and it just goes into a very, very dark place, a very steep, dark, treacherous place. And the first time I ever did it was in a half marathon, which was the first half marathon I'd ever entered and only second one I'd ever run. And then we got around to about the 17K mark, 17 kilometre mark. And then I stopped at a water station and this lady said, "Oh, how you feeling?" I said, "Pretty good." And she goes, "Oh, well, you've got the Dungeon now." And by this time, it was a night run as well. So by this time, it was pitch black, no moon. And as soon as I went into that deeper kind of forest, you couldn't see anything but what was in your head torch. It's pretty cool. That's the Dungeon.
I've been up to the summit of Biwa a couple of times, but for the vast majority of the time that I lived in Brisbane, it was closed. And I'm really thankful that I got up.
Yeah.
Got up on the summit before I moved, because being up there for the sunrise is epic.
Oh,
so
I bet
cool.
It is. Yeah.
Because you get this wicked summit shadow, and it just throws this shadow like from the mountain itself all the way up to like Mullaney and
oh wow,
and that whole ridge. Well, I guess it's probably further south than that, but I don't know. It's just it's a beautiful place to spend the morning. I took a head torch up to the summit a few times by a couple of different routes.
Yeah.
And this is all done when it was open, by the way.
And, just to be clear. Yeah, it's still open now, but I know there was a long period where it wasn't.
Yeah. But I mean, I've come down that mountain a couple of times, and I totally understand why they closed it off.
Yep.
And just the other day, I think I had an article come up on Facebook saying more rescues on Glasshouse Mountains than in the entire rest of the country, or something to that effect.
Oh, yeah, There's
totally
something
get it.
about it. I think when you have something that is accessible, when I say accessible, you can drive there from Brisbane in a short amount of time. You get a few mates together or partners or whatever and start saying, oh, yeah, let's go and do this, or Tibragargan, and which is another mountain in the region, just for the listeners. And all of a sudden a little bit of bravado kicks in and a little bit of carelessness, and yeah, as you say, next thing there's people stuck halfway up or down, and they go into panic. And yeah, I don't know what it is about that region. I think it's just too accessible, whereas it's a lot harder to get to other places, so they don't even make the trip, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's so close. And I guess every time, if you live in Brisbane and you go to the sunny coast for the beach, you drive straight past them.
Yeah.
So absolutely everyone's thinking, oh, no, I might
We should
like to
go there
climb that
one day. Yeah, let's do it next weekend. Yeah, let's just climb it.
Yeah, let's go on Saturday morning at 9 a.m.
Yeah, in our activewear with everyone
Yeah,
else.
for sure. And I guess to give some perspective for people that aren't that familiar with my background in Brisbane, I used to run a business called Base Camp Adventure Fitness. And so basically every weekend, maybe every sort of second or third weekend, if I'm realistic, I'd fill up the car full of people, and then we'd drive out to the mountains surrounding Brisbane and do 4 or 5 6 hour hike. Like, I was always interested in kind of challenging people and doing something really hard, but we always avoided Tibragargan because the rockfall danger there is so significant, and you have a lot of people who are pretty fresh
Yep.
to the hiking world, and the chance of just knocking a rock loose there is so high. So we never actually did it. I ran a trip once where we climbed up the east face through the mountaineering route.
Oh, wow. That's pretty brutal.
Su-
That's pretty much
super
90
cool.
degrees, isn't it?
I mean, there's sections of it that's 90 for sure, but I think actually there's probably only one section that's 90 degrees, and then it's in like a kind of a, not a dihedral, but like a big chimney. So it's super easy to kind of chimney your way up. But
Okay.
I wouldn't recommend. It's called the mountaineering route for a reason. You should definitely take a rope on it. But
Yep.
it's the best introduction to multi-pitch rock climbing you can have, because it goes through a series of walking and then onto a flat section where you can feel comfortable again, and
Yep.
then there's trees and you're like, oh, I'm bushwalking again, and then a bit more climbing, and there's certain sections of it that make you feel like you're exposed, and it really makes you feel like you're rock climbing. And then you've got cave 4 and cave 3 as you're coming up through this east face, and it just feels epic. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing else that you can do, as far as I'm aware, in Queensland that is that easy, that feels so legit and so kind of raw and adventurous. So
Yeah, it's stunning to even just to look at that. I think for anybody who's ever travelled up that highway, as you say, especially if they take the old highway route and you drive past that thing, and it's just, I remember it from when I was a kid.
Yeah, ever since kids, you're driving past, just staring at that going, I wonder if people climb that. Someone can climb that. That's amazing.
I actually, a friend of mine was taking his, he's a pilot, and he was taking a plane out, and he said, oh, I've got a spare seat. Do you want to jump in? So I took my GoPro and my camera and got some. We actually went around Biawar and then around Tibragargan twice. And it was such a small aircraft that just felt like we were driving a car, and we got incredibly close and just looking into all of those caves, and it was absolutely spectacular to realize how high we were off the ground, and then look out to the side and we're not even the height of the summit. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, such a beautiful spot.
Yeah, it's good.
And really, unique way that those mountains were formed too, and the Aboriginal story
Yeah.
of how their creation story is super powerful and really it was something that I always tried to make sure I retold the story as best I could
Yeah.
to people who were with me. And when you look around and you start to see the characters from these stories form from the mountains, and you get a really, for me, that's probably the only place where I've started to, feel like I have a connection to country.
Yeah.
So it's a super important place for me. For that reason.
Again, as you say, that proximity to a major city. I went to a couple of years back now. It's not Carnarvon. What's the other one that starts with a C, Craig? It's about 2 days drive from here.
Oh, right. The gorge, you mean?
Maybe it is Carnarvon Gorge.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is
I think
Carnarvon
you're talking
Gorge.
about Carnarvon Gorge.
Yeah, I'm confusing it with another one that's closer. No, yeah, so Carnarvon, we drove out to there, and that's the first time I've ever seen cave art. And there's a particular spot where you pull over and you hike down to this cave, and they've done the, how they put the, what do they call that red dirt, the ochre dirt in their mouth with some water, and then they spray their hands. So there's all these stencils of hands, who knows how long those hands have been painted on there. And when you look into the history of that area, it's pretty cool. You can read about it on some of the plaques around the hike. And they apparently used that area as a central meeting place for thousands of years. And so they'd congregate there something like once a year to, I guess, just exchange everything, I guess, ideas, values, stories, information on how they're traveling and what's happening in their region. And
hey, Chase, is it easy for you to recall one of those stories of the Glasshouse Mountains for us, just to fill us in on what you used to tell people?
Pretty on the spot. So,
I mean, I certainly can. It's a pretty basic story.
Yeah.
But my only concern is that will I kind of do it justice? But if you think that your listeners would be interested in it, then I'll certainly do my best. But I may butcher it just as a.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what to make you feel better. What we'll do is, you tell your version as best as you know it, and if I can find a version online somewhere which kind of goes through the story in a bit more detail, I'll post that on the podcast show notes page. People can read that in more detail. But everybody, don't hold him to it. Because the reason I'm glad that you didn't ask me is because I've got a very rough version of it as well. But I don't.
Well,
I kind of feel the same.
I'm wondering if I've ever heard it before, so I'm just not sure if I have. So I'm just wondering what it would be.
Do you want to have a crack at it, mate?
I'll have a crack. Yeah. Sure. So the characters in the story are each one of the mountains. So there is, from memory, there's 11 mountains in that region that are these volcanic plugs. So the mountains are a family. The mother of the family is Biwa.
Yes,
so
I've got some notes on the screen while you're talking. So yes, you're bang on so far.
Biwa is the largest, tallest peak out of the family. So Biwa is with child as well. So that's why you have the significant kind of
that
bump.
kind of bulge, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
The father is Tibragargan. So Tibragargan is the one as you drive up the Gold Coast Highway. That kind of, Sunny Coast Highway. Kind of looks like a gorilla to me.
Yep.
So he's the father. And the other significant character of the story, I think, is Krunuruan.
Yeah, Krunuruan.
Pronouncing that right.
The eldest son, I think.
Yeah. So we would call it crookneck. A lot of people, because it has this at the very summit. It has this kind of very significant bend. So the story goes that the family of mountains were enjoying their morning and Tibrogargan noticed that the sea levels were rising, and he sort of sensed danger, and he told Cernunnon, the eldest brother, to round up all his younger brothers and sisters and draw them back from the encroaching water, and collect them and bring them back to safety of the higher land, which would be, I guess, the Mullaney Range.
Yeah. Yep.
But rather than doing what his father told him to, Cernunnon was terrified of the rising water, and he abandoned his family and he started to move away up to the mountain. And
Yep.
Tibrogargan, being the father, wasn't too happy about that. I think the story goes that
Greatly angered is what I'm reading.
he was very upset, and he felt like Cernunnon had shamed his family, so he quite violently smashed him over the head with a big stick, and that's why Cernunnon has a crook neck and is not looking so good.
Jeez.
So that's as much as I know and can recall.
The bit I like now, you've got that bang on, by the way, for all our listeners. I was literally reading it while you were telling the story, and you've nailed it.
Oh, awesome.
The additional part that I've always liked is what happened after that, and it's hard to say these names right. Cernunnon went over to Tibrogargan and asked for his forgiveness, but filled with shame at his son's cowardice, Tibrogargan could do nothing but weep tears, which, trickling along the ground, formed a stream that flowed into the sea. So then Cernunnon went back to his brothers and sisters, but they also wept at the shame of their brothers. Now, what ends up happening is Tibrogargan turns his back on his son and vowed that he would never look at him again. And that's why if you look at the shape of those mountains, it looks like Head and Shoulders, and there's almost like a face of sorts, and it's definitely facing east, which is the complete opposite direction of Cernunnon.
Oh,
so yeah.
Thanks, guys. I honestly don't. I grew up there, in that Caboolture area, and I don't believe I've ever heard that. It's certainly a lot more interesting than just looks like glass houses from sea, which is what we were taught. If you think that's how it was
the
named.
Western version, I guess.
Yeah.
But mate, you did well.
Yeah.
I give you like a 10 out of 10 for that.
No.
I think I forgot that last part, but yeah, I love the explanation of the creeks and
those and I didn't remember those, by the way. I'd had to read them, but I did remember why he was turned his back, because that always made me sad. Because you know that other lookout that you can drive up to, and it's got the wooden
Wild Horse.
I think it is. Oh no! Wild Horse is on the eastern side of the freeway. There's another one up in the middle there. It's shorter.
Yeah, but that is a nice little lookout. I can't remember what
it has a big plaque there, and it basically tells the entire story as you've just told it. And I always remember getting to the end of it, and just as a kid, I remember reading it and just feeling so sad that the father just would never look at his son again. I thought, wow, it's pretty heavy. It is. Now as a father myself, I think that's even deeper.
Yeah.
And wow, we got deep pretty quickly. Hey, something I wanted to ask you about. So you're kind of establishing a little bit of an idea of where you've got to where you are. Were you born or just grew up in Tasmania?
I was born in the Launceston Hospital.
Oh wow!
Yeah, in 1985, and I lived in Scottsdale, which is a small forestry kind of town, like in the northeast of Tassie, and that's where the majority of my father's family have lived for quite a while. But for all of my childhood, I lived in Devonport, which is, for anyone that's been to Tassie via the boat, you'll know where that is. It's where the Spirit of Tasmania comes into port.
Yeah. Yep. I flew into there once too, which was because you can fly into one of two places if you want to get to the overland track.
Yeah, if you fly into Devonport, you got to take one of those little Dash 8s, one of those little buzzers, like twin prop planes.
Oh yeah, that's
But
exactly what I did. Yeah, that's right. And then the second time, I did a bit more research and I flew in with Craig and we just flew in a regular aircraft,
yeah,
which was
you would
to
have, I guess,
the other airport.
to Lonnie. Yeah,
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I couldn't remember which order it was, but that makes sense.
yeah. I mean, Devonport's marginally closer, but it's always going to be more expensive if you're flying to Lonnie.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Yeah, I found that out. I mean, it was an expensive trip, but you did that the overland track when you were about 21. Is that right?
yeah, bang on. I think I turned 21 on the overland track.
Oh,
from
how
memory.
cool is that?
That's good.
Yeah. So I was in uni when I did it. I did it with three mates, and I didn't really have any gear. Like, I remember borrowing some gear from friends and just parents and family and stuff. Even though I'd done like a little bit of hiking here and there, like we would drive from Devonport sometimes even in the afternoons or on the weekends, and we'd go and like run up Barn Bluff, or we'd go to out the back of Latrobe and just go sort of bashing through the bush. And a lot of the time it might have just been in cars to go and look at the mountains or just to go and hang out. But I'd done like bits and pieces of hikes, and the first real adventure I had was climbing Barn Bluff and then coming back down Marion's Lookout. For anyone that's done the overland track, it's the sting.
Yeah, it is the sting.
The very first, few minutes basically of the overland track. So I remember coming down there in a car with like no head torch or nothing, like just some crappy gear and maybe some like running shoes. And I think I was pretty hooked from that moment. But I always loved Cradle Mountain. Like my dad would take us up there. We would go up there as a family and spend time up there as kids, and we'd stay in the Cradle Mountain Lodge.
Yep.
Because my dad was doing conferences up there for work, so we would get put up, like the whole family would get put up in these cabins.
Perfect.
Which was so mint. Like, I absolutely loved it. It was like having Christmas every time, because a lot of the time it'd be in winter, and you're like feeding the animals, which of course you shouldn't do. We didn't know it kind of in those days. Like just playing around in the snow and getting to see the mountain and feel like how wild it is there.
Yeah,
it was just such a vivid memory of my childhood. And I found a photo of me as a kid there the other day, and it's like so nice to look at, especially since I haven't been home in like I haven't been back in Tassie in like 2.5 years, and I haven't been back in Australia for 2 years. So.
Yeah. Well, we checked out Tassie for you, and it's still all good. You'd be happy to know.
Yeah, it's very good.
When did we go down, Craig? Was it last year? The year before?
It feels like last year, but it was like
no, it might have been last year. I think we're coming up to the year. We just had the year anniversary. Yeah.
So it would have been February last year, was it? Anyway,
slightly later. Yeah. So last year we went down for the Cradle Mountain Film Festival.
Yeah.
Had an awesome time and tacked. So we stayed for 2 nights down there, and then we tacked the overland track on the end of that trip.
Yeah, it was nice.
I said to Craig, I'm not travelling all that way for 2 nights and then not doing the overland track.
Yeah, we're right there at the start. We had to do it, eh?
Yeah, exactly.
That was great.
And Chase, something that I'm kind of I'm not exactly sure of, I guess not so much the chronological order, but how things kind of came to be from this. A guy who just, really enjoyed being outdoors, and then you started climbing and all that sort of stuff. But when I look at your sort of resume or your list of qualifications, I'm seeing things like base camp training specialist, expedition leader, qualified personal trainer, qualified altitude trainer, strength and conditioning coach. In what order did some of these things eventuate, and at what point did were you ever just the typical kind of personal trainer, or was it always geared towards getting into the mountains?
From in terms of my career in the fitness industry, it
Yep.
was 100%. It was day one that it was designed
Okay.
for the mountain. Yeah. I mean, if you look at if you look into my, I don't know, timeline, as you said, like there's a good gap of when I was sort of 22 to 24, 25, where I wasn't really doing much, just kind of being a dirt bag and working working for a multinational food and beverage company and not really enjoying my life. And then I did that. Yeah, I did that for 4 years, partly in Tassie and partly in Queensland. And I quit that job. I took a year off and I travelled through Southeast Asia, India, Nepal, and Europe.
Was
And then
that
I
the
came
first
home.
time you'd visited those places?
Yeah. I hadn't really done any overseas travel until that point, other than I did live in the States when I was 19 and I worked at a summer camp. A little bit of fun, but yeah, that was the first time I'd really kind of been overseas, and that definitely changed my perspective on almost everything in life. And I got home. I knew I wanted to do something in the outdoors. I tried guiding for a little while. I was mountain bike guiding in the Blueies for a bit and bushwalking guiding, and I worked for Mountain Designs in one of their stores
Oh, cool.
for a while, and I also worked for Cedar Summit for a bit,
Yeah.
which was super cool because I got to meet a bunch of people in the industry, and they are like a really great company, and they make some exceptional gear.
Oh,
So that
yeah.
was kind of my
We use
my
plenty of
foot.
their gear.
Yeah,
Actually, yeah.
so do I.
If we can pause there, mate. I think I saw you cooking in one of their. It's like it's like we use for cups, but it's got a steel base on the bottom. Is that right?
Oh, the silicon kind of pop
Yeah,
up
it
thing.
pops
Yeah.
up. It's got a steel bottom on it.
The X-Pot. It's great.
Yeah, you
So good.
yeah,
Packs down completely flat.
really flat in your pack. It's pretty awesome idea.
Yeah, crazy concept. When I first saw it, I remember thinking, hang on a second, how does that work? But no, it seems some people swear by them.
No, they're great. I mean, it's like you would think it would burn because it's got a a metallic base, obviously, and then silicon around the outside. And mine has, like, I've probably been a bit given the stove a bit too much gusto, and it's probably started to like singe a little bit around the silicon, but it doesn't. It seems to be like kind of flame retardant or something. But
I don't want to give too much away here, but Chase, I do a little bit of baking, okay? And and in my travels in the baking world, lots of people swear by the silicon, and they chuck it in their oven for
Really?
hour and a half to cook muffins in. Nothing happens to it.
All right.
Blows my mind.
Because you can just sort of pop them out.
Yeah, they're flexible, so that. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There you go. So you heard it first. I bake.
has this baking been inspired by the coronavirus lockdown by any chance?
I'm not going to lie. I cook a lot. Craig knows this. I have friends around every couple of months and do a massive camp oven cook up. So, but you bang on. I've increased the intensity and I've tried a lot of new things. And all with I've just really enjoyed it, mate. To be honest, I keep saying to people, if you're not taking anything positive out of this, for the most part at least, then you might be doing something wrong. And I do need to caveat that, obviously, if somebody's lost a family member, that's a completely different story. But for the majority of us who are just asked to stay at home, I've found a whole bunch of pastimes, and yeah, mate, cooking pumpkin scones is one of them too.
Nice.
Chase, how have you been coping with the lockdowns, mate, and the restrictions on getting out and doing what you normally do?
I've been coping pretty well. I mean, now I'm fine. I'm in like the best possible scenario because the restrictions are more or less lifted. Like I can, as far as I'm aware, go out to the mountain for as long as I want, I think. And I've been able to run for about 3 weeks or 4 weeks now. So that was the main thing that was really kind of damaging to my calm, because for 8 weeks I couldn't go outside other than to go to the supermarket or to the pharmacy or something. And when you're in a physical position like I am, looking at the mountain, like knowing how good it is, understanding that I can easily sneak out of my house and walk 200 meters and I'm in the national park, I'm like, just do it. But to my I'm quite proud of this, that I can honestly say that I didn't break quarantine. Although now I wish I did, because I'm thinking, I could have just gotten away with this the whole time, and I would have been able to, I would have been super fit by now, because I lost like 8 weeks of aerobic training.
No, you did the right thing, mate. If everyone thought they could just sneak out, there'd be 1,000 people up there. You did the right thing.
Yeah.
Commend you for that.
Yeah.
I can't attribute that to myself. My girlfriend has a very, very strong moral compass, and she keeps me.
Well, you still should take some credit for that, for hanging around a person like that.
Yeah. No, but I managed, I basically turned my balcony into like a mini gym. Like I set up my gymnastics rings and I brought a step out. So I was doing step ups, and I did attempt to do some aerobic training, and I think I made like a couple of little videos about it on Instagram, saying like, this is how you can do aerobic training for mountains and climbing. But realistically, it's just like, it doesn't even compare to being able to go out on trail and go running or hiking.
No, but to your credit, I think that there's a maintenance there that you're much better off if you're maintaining some level of movement for when you do get back out there. And I mean, that's about the time when I'd been following you for quite some time on Instagram, and then I noticed that you put up a couple of specific kind of video posts or stories from memory with a little bit of training style stuff, and I thought, I've got to look into this guy a little bit more. And then when I went over to YouTube, that's when I really saw the whole kind of gamut of exercise. Exercise is not the right word, because it's so much, I don't know, there's so much more science behind it. I really appreciate the way that you put your videos together. And I was just telling someone just a couple of days ago, actually, I said, I shared one of your videos, and I said, it's not just what he says, it's not just what he demonstrates, it's the way in which he frames the information. And you just got this really calm kind of demeanor. And I like that, because it's too easy to get wrapped up into these, there's a lot of channels out there where they're trying to be heroes and that sort of stuff, and you very skillfully bypass all of that and bring a lot of good science to and theory to what you're doing. So well done, mate.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It's really nice to hear. I do put a fair amount of work into the YouTube channel, so it's really nice to get that kind of feedback. And I hope people have a similar experience, because that's kind of what I'm going for.
Oh, there's no doubt. And there's no doubt that after people listen to this podcast and they go and look you up, I have no doubt they're going to get nothing but benefit. I mean, I'm talking post COVID-19. Like this is not just about staying in shape for lockdown. This stuff is, how would you kind of sum it up? To me, it's about connecting the entire body together for the most part. So not just, doing squats. It's about doing lunges and all sorts of things that are joining that kinetic chain almost.
Yeah. The best way that I can explain it is that the vast majority of training out there will give you information on the type of exercises to do. Like if you Googled or looked on Reddit, like how to train for hiking or mountaineering,
Yep.
There'll be information in there that is good. It'll say, you need to predominantly go hiking. You need to do squats and lunges to build significant strength. And you need to build your experience in the outdoors and all that kind of stuff. And that information is spot on. And in some posts, people even go into saying, oh, you should be doing 20 squats and 20 lunges by 4 or 5 sets. Again, pretty good information. But what is important is the quality of each and every rep that you do, especially when you're doing strength training. And I'm in a weird position because hiking and mountaineering are predominantly or exclusively endurance-based activities, but I'm a strength coach primarily. So whilst I do deal in programming and designing aerobic or cardiovascular-based programs, I'm predominantly a strength coach. So my kind of philosophy is that the movements that you do need to be of high quality first before you build the quantity. And it's really about bulletproofing and preparing the body for the situation where you roll an ankle or you tear a muscle in your hip or you start to feel fatigued on a long run. That's those little windows of opportunity that come through when you're doing endurance activities, those little windows of opportunity for injury. And growing up in Tasmania, I'm very familiar with how difficult it can be to get out of the wilderness if you're injured like that. So my first and foremost priority when I'm training anybody is to make sure that I've done everything that I possibly can to make sure they're not going to get injured first. And then we can talk about whether you're strong enough or whether you're cardiovascularly capable of going up or down. Because those things, in my mind, those things are not as important. Because if you're not that cardiovascular fit, you'll just suffer more than everyone else. And that's okay. You can deal with that. What you can't deal with is rolling an ankle or tearing an ACL when you're 5 days from the nearest road or
100%.
something like to that effect. So it hasn't always been like that. I've developed this kind of philosophy over 8 years of working with people. And I guess when I started, I started the business. And when I say business, it was literally just me for the first 2 years or so. And I was pretty much just doing what you would see a regular personal trainer do. And then we'd go hiking on the weekend and I'd share the skills and that kind of thing. So that's the way that I kind of differentiated myself initially. But now it has become, I guess it's like the old thing of conscious competence and unconscious competence, because now over these years, I began to understand what I didn't know, which is a lot. And and I really tried to teach myself and bridge that gap between to the point where I'm now learning about so deep into anatomy and physiology that it almost seems irrelevant to where I was when I first started, because originally I was like, sweet, okay, I've got this great idea. I'm going to walk people up and down hills and they're going to pay me for it. And I get to be outside all the time.
That is a good idea. I'm just writing that down.
Yeah, do it. I mean, I've left the market in Brisbane. It's open. So yeah, I literally just started with that idea of like, oh yeah, I can, like, I know. Basically what happened was I got home from traveling, and I reached a point. I was actually working for Cedar Summit at the time, and I really wasn't enjoying it because I didn't have structure in my life. I was a traveling salesman basically for Cedar Summit, so I was all over the joint. Like, because I was from Tassie, I was representing them in Tassie and Queensland. I was just traveling all the time, and it drove me absolutely mad. Even though I love the products, I love the company, and I loved being around that environment, and working for them, it was just the structure of the lifestyle that just, it wasn't agreeing with me, and I just spat the dummy and quit. And I just sat around for like 2 weeks thinking about what I was going to do with my life in a, if I'm honest, like a very dark, not very productive way. But I think those times in life are very useful to us. And that's when I kind of came up with the idea that I would, start training people predominantly for things like Kokoda and Everest Base Camp and the Annapurna circuit, because I'd just come back from doing hikes like that, so that information was like really fresh in my mind. Yeah, that's how it started.
Oh, that's great.
That's cool, Chase. So can I just, I've, injured my ankle a couple of times in the past, and it's, given me a lot of grief actually. And, I had physios, and they said, now that it's injured, you have to strengthen it again. So we did a lot of exercises around strengthening joints and ankles. And is that how you prevent injuries? Is just by making those movements stronger? And tell me a bit more about how you prevent yourself from injuring. I guess ankles and knees are pretty common in the wilderness.
Yeah. So the ankle is predominantly, its main function is to be a mobile joint, right?
Yep.
The knee, its primary function is to be a stable joint.
Right.
So, and as you move up the body, really interesting, as you go from joint to joint to joint, it switches between mobile, stable, mobile, stable, mobile, stable. If you look at the way the body's built, right?
Yeah.
So ankle has to be mobile predominantly. So what's probably happened, excuse me, what's probably happened when you injured your ankle is you moved into a range of motion that your body didn't have control and strength within that range. So you've gone into pronation or something to that effect, which pronation is like you're rolling out. You've rolled out too far you've gone into a range where the body wasn't prepared for. It didn't have control and strength within that range. So something has to give in that system. And that may have been any number of muscles or ligaments or tendons within that is responsible or involved in that movement.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. So therefore, if you add a bit of training and strength, you can keep it within the normal range of movement. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. Yeah. Essentially, yes. But what's most important first is mobility. So to be able to be strong, like you have a certain range of strength. So if you bring your hands out in front of you and look at your two hands, and you have them a foot distance apart, right? So that's your range of strength.
Yeah.
But mobility, the full range of the movement is much wider than that. Now you bring your arms out to 2 feet wide. So let's say you have that very short range, 1 foot distance of strength, but the ankle is able to move out in that much greater range, the full, complete, natural range of motion. So what we need to do is first allow yourself to be able to move into that full range of strength, full range of motion. And then once we have the range of motion, we start to build control. And that is essentially a component of strength. So if you can move within a full range of motion and exercise control, then that demonstrates strength. So mobility and strength really, they go together, they kind of dovetail. They're both factors that are incredibly important. Flexibility is a different thing. Flexibility is being able to simply be able to move into that range of motion, but it's just a floppy kind of move where you don't actually have the control. So
Yeah, I have noticed another point on your videos is you do so much of the so many of the exercises slowly, and with it's not this thing where you go, okay, everyone, we're going to do 5 lunges, and you're just stomping it out, right? There's 5 done. I was just doing some lunges this week from one of your videos, and a few other bits and pieces I hacked together from a few of your videos, and I slowed it down to the pace that you were doing it, tried to focus on all the points that you brought up throughout your video, and man, it gets the heart rate going. That static hold is it feels horrible. I mean, I know it's doing some good, but it's hard work.
Yeah. So this is another important component of strength, which is time under tension. So if you think about doing a squat, as you said earlier, just like bashing out 5 squats, it might have taken you 5 seconds or less to do 5 squats, right? But
Yep.
if you took 10 seconds to do each one of those 5 squats, that's 50 seconds of work.
Yeah.
So you can start to see how quality of movement and slow things down is going to increase the intensity of the exercise. And intensity doesn't necessarily mean that you're going fast and you're giving your 100% effort. Intensity is multifaceted. So it's a combination of lots of different things. So if you're taking 10 seconds to do a squat, then those muscles are under tension for such a long time. And that's where we begin to build strength. We're incapable of building strength without adequate time under tension. So for the most part, yeah, all of the exercises that I do, especially in those videos, because they are beginner videos, are slow and under control. Because like I said before, my first priority is not injuring anyone, and B, that's a significant factor for strength building.
Yeah. Well, I got to take a step back there, because you I always struggle with those videos, and now you're saying they're for beginners. So.
Yeah, that's the easy one. He brings out the hard ones later.
Yeah, I feel silly now.
I mean, yeah, I think people, they read into it too much when I say things are beginner, because I can perform those things and that they can still be hard for me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a beginner exercise. That it just means that it's accessible and it's a healthy starting point.
The complexity of the movement itself is within the range of a person starting out.
Yeah, yeah, and you even if you were advanced and you've been training for 2 years with consistent improvement, you may well do one of those exercises and still struggle. It doesn't mean that you're not. Like I can take an incredible mountain athlete who is, a member of the New Zealand Alpine team, and put him or her through a routine like that. And even though they're one of the most athletic people in the Southern Hemisphere in a mountain sense, they will still struggle. So it's I think the most important thing to understand is that fitness is so multifaceted, especially when it comes to mountaineering. There's so many things that we need to take into account, and everyone's going to have a weakness, right? You need to be okay with being a beginner. Like be a student in something, even if you've climbed Everest and all of the 7 summits and you're this weapon, you still need to be a student in something. There's some way for you to improve, for sure. So
that's one of the great points that you make in. I've heard you say it in at least one video, and that is, it's okay if you find that you can't do something, you can't do one of these exercises. That's a good thing, because you've just discovered a weakness. And if you've discovered a weakness, it means that you can work on that and focus on that and improve it.
Yeah. Without that conscious awareness of where we are not competent, we can't move forward to better ourselves. So slowing down and doing things with purpose and care exposes those areas of weakness. If you rush through something, then you'd be like, yeah, I'm smashing this. He just said do 5 squats, and I did 5 squats.
Yeah, I did 5 squats, yeah. No, you're 100% correct. I definitely, I actually wanted to do a bunch more, but last week, as I was telling you, when we were messaging each other, I had a little bit of a mild cold, so I kind of toned down the workouts through that period, but I did manage to get a few in and adapt a few things. So yeah, thanks for keeping my buns in shape, mate.
You're welcome. That's the overall goal.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And just quickly, mate, while we're getting a bit of a lesson on strength,
Mate, you will be just when you send the invoice, Chase. Can you send it to Craig's email? I don't want any part of this. Okay.
I don't know if that's what you signed up for, but that's this is an opportunity here. Do you think that?
I tell you that I charged by the hour, didn't I?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, it's Craig's shout.
Yeah. I've actually got a few things to ask you because I could start by saying, look, Tom worded me up to check you out recently, and then I realised I'd watched one of your videos before that because I was getting into that you've got some barefoot boots that you are pretty happy with, and I think that came up might be 3 or 4 weeks ago on my
Yeah, that was just recent, wasn't it?
It was only recent, but it was before you'd even mentioned this. So I had already seen you there, and I was really wrapped in what you were saying. It was like we were kindred, that we need to be able to feel the ground, and these boots are like... And I was so surprised to see them because I haven't seen anything like them, the boots that you wear. Could you tell us a little bit about those boots? And then my other question is about whether you think ankle support in a boot is all it's cracked up to be, or is it something that you have to have a strength in your ankle, or what should we be looking for?
So yeah, those boots, I am really happy with them. They have been on the market for like 2 years, unbeknownst to me. I was just kind of scrolling on Instagram, and I scrolled up to this ad, and it showed this hugely flexible hiking boot. And I dabbled in minimal footwear. I pretty much always, like in the gym and everything, worn like zero drop shoes. I didn't run in zero drop shoes, but I did a lot of my just general kind of walking around and training either barefoot and in minimal shoes. And I have always kind of preferred to use trail runners, especially in Queensland, because I like that sensory relationship to the ground and being able to feel when things are slipping. I remember going on a few hikes with my clients back in the day, and I just, for some reason, decided to wear boots, and I was like slipping all over the place and falling over. Incredibly unprofessional. And they were like making fun of me and stuff, and I'm like, I prefer to use trail runners. I don't even know why I chose to wear these boots. But I guess to your second part of the question, like, there, and I talked about it in the video, but you do have to kind of look at what kind of environment you're going into and decide what kind of footwear you're going to wear. Like, I don't think I would wear those boots in, a West Coast Tassie wilderness situation. I would probably wear them on the Three Capes track because that's all predominantly boardwalk as far as I know. And that's like, it's perfect for that.
Yeah.
They're not a particularly kind of rugged boot, but in terms of ankle support, I don't know. I think you really kind of have to ask a physiotherapist. I'm probably speaking outside of my education in my league here, but my general feeling is that ankle support is up to the ankle. It's not up to the boot.
Yeah.
So if you, for some reason, twisted, like, I kind of think about it like, if you twist your ankle in a boot, you could twist your ankle in a trail runner. It wouldn't be any different. Like the fact that you have a slightly higher upper in your boot doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stop you from tearing something. Like, if you're going to tear it, it's going to tear, right? That's my kind of general feeling on the thing.
I'd say I definitely agree with you on that. I have felt in comparison to Craig's ankles, I've got like Incredible Hulk ankles apparently. I wish you had given him a solution. I wouldn't have to listen to him talk about him anymore. But anyway, so on 1 or 2 occasions on very brutal terrain, I've gone to step on something and then only kind of made contact with a quite a tall boulder or something on one side, at say the inside of the foot for argument's sake, and as I've applied my weight, the outside of my foot has snapped down really, really quickly, and I'm just, because I don't wear really high boots. Would you call ours mid, Craig, or are they high?
Well, I think they're high, those the
Salomons?
4Ds.
Yeah, I
think
guess they are high. They do come up above that bulge in the ankles. And yeah, it's hard to say because you can never put yourself back in the same situation. But I guess to your point, what I will say is I've done extensive hikes in low cut shoes. I've done tons of trail running, up and down Gun and all around there. And I have had occasions where at absolute full pelt, and I'm sure you've experienced this, at absolute full pelt, you step on a rock and your ankle snaps to one side for a split second, and you're already 3 steps past that, and you get this shockwave of, oh no, what have I done? And then you realize, oh, actually, I'm 100% fine.
Yeah, and that's one of the best feelings, and it's one of the benefits of because you start to feel bulletproof. You're like, yes, nothing can stop me. Like something like that happens to you. I've even had like audible sounds come out of my ankle sometimes when that happens.
Yeah,
and I like hobble for a bit. I'm like, no, I'm cool.
Actually,
like,
I'm okay.
We got through it. Yeah. So, I think one of the most basic things that I want to drop a couple of nuggets for people that are listening. Like, if you're worried about your ankles, like if you just stand barefoot and with one leg, just pretend like you're rolling your ankle and just see how low you can, or see how much you can pronate, see how much you can get your ankle to roll out in a way that it typically would.
Yep.
And then that way you can start to explore your range of motion, so exploring your mobility, and then maybe we can start to explore if we can build strength within that range, so that the next time this happens, your body is familiar with that territory.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of controlling the movement and recovering, and then continuing on in with the next step. So
yeah. Well, that's an interesting concept, though. I mean, I'm guessing you can associate or apply that same theory to another joint like the knee.
Yeah. So what I mentioned before is that the knee is predominantly a stable joint. So the knee's job is to enable or to provide a stability point between the ankle and the hip.
Yep.
So typically you don't want to mobilize the knee unless you've had surgery or something where you really have like very little,
right.
Or if you're doing kind of fairly extreme, not extreme, but quite advanced, like body weight movement, you might want to start mobilizing the knees. But the knee's job primarily, in terms of like joints, is to help to be a stable point between the ankle and the hip, and they're both mobile joints. Like it'd be weird if all your joints were mobile.
Yeah, as soon as you said that earlier, I thought that is absolutely profound. I was thinking of it when you mentioned it again just before. I'm thinking about the wrist and shoulder in comparison to the elbow. I mean, it's just so easy when you now that you mention it, I can't ever forget that. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the arm is it's the upper body equivalent of that. So yeah, why would you ever need to mobilize your elbow? You don't.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure if by some freak of nature you could, I'm sure you would lose, definitely have to lose some kind of strength in that because you wouldn't be able to get that rigidity that you need for certain movements.
Yeah, and it's rigidity is one word, but durability is a word that I use a lot, because it's, we're going into environments that are inherently treacherous, and although we do have the inherent ability to move over difficult terrain, and as humans that spend most of our time in the city, as we go out into nature more, we are gaining back that deep-seated kind of knowledge of being able to move over terrain. But that terrain is inherently dangerous to us. So there's always those challenges that are going to find our weak points. And so I feel like it's my job to kind of help people discover their weak points before they go into an environment like that, so that they don't have to call a helicopter.
Have you ever done any barefoot trail running?
Yeah, I've done bits and pieces.
Oh,
And
yeah. Tell me about that. Well, tell me
it's
about your
very-
experience.
my experience is that my plantar fascia, so like all the muscles on the bottom of the feet,
Yeah.
start screaming.
Is that right?
Not when I'm running, the day after.
Is that right?
The day or two after, that plantar fascia. So I think about that like,
Wow.
that's maybe like a weak point. So that plantar fascia essentially acts like a spring.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
moving forward. So for me, I guess my plantar fascia isn't springy or mobile enough.
Yeah, that's
So
interesting.
If you for anyone that's interested in like anything barefoot, look into Tony Riddle. He is a UK an English guy, and he is on Instagram. He's the natural lifestylist, I think, and he is the barefoot guy. Like, I don't know much about barefoot stuff. I'm loosely interested in it, but Tony Riddle is the man. He's run like the entire length of the UK from north to south or something like that, barefoot.
Oh, wow.
So he's a unit, and he's just a really interesting guy to follow. I appreciate his content.
Yeah, I've done it myself. I try and do shorter distances on a local trail, sort of 3 to 5 kilometers, and I'm happy to say I've never had that discomfort. In fact, hearing that from you, who is spends so much time. Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. That I don't have that problem, to be honest. But yeah, I find that I take a different gait. My stride's different. My pace is different. I'll hit different sections. Some of the section on the trail is actually sand, believe it or not, and it's the weirdest thing to run on after you've been running on dirt for sort of 3 kilometers, and then all of a sudden you'll hit this gravel section and you're really just almost tippy-toeing across because it hurts. But I still swear by the feeling of touching the ground with the bare foot is something pretty special.
Definitely. I really encourage barefoot training, like if you're squatting, lunging.
Yeah, likewise.
Doing any kind of strength training. I think it's integral for people that are training for hiking and mountaineering to do their strength training barefoot, because the feet are our connection point to the ground. They need to be strong and healthy, and we need to begin to expose those weaknesses so that we can rectify. And you won't recognize those weaknesses if you're in your average running shoe.
Yeah, I mean, when you just look at that, was there 26 bones in the foot, and a typical shoe is going to isolate that just to pretty much one joint on the ankle. So you're almost like focusing all of that pressure that, as you say before, with that, what was that funky name of that spring underneath the foot?
The plantar fascia.
Yeah, so that would have been, had a lot of weight distributed on it, and then all those other 26 bones would have. But I 100% agree, mate. I do all of my stuff. When I was doing that stuff of yours this week, I was just doing it in the backyard, just on the grass, just with no shoes on. There's something primal about it too. Maybe I'm sounding a bit hippie or whatever, but I think just that contact with the ground is something we're just putting too many barriers between us and the earth these days.
Yeah, that's a bit of chunk of gold there. Why not take your shoes off when you're doing your workout? That sounds good.
Yeah, but just as a disclaimer, don't jump into barefoot running.
Yeah, good call.
Be
No,
very, very,
I said
very
that, not you. Don't worry, they'll sue me. Chase did not say do barefoot running. I was the one that brought it up.
Yeah, very, very small amounts might be a good idea.
Even
Running
just start with walking, just a slow
yeah,
walk, because
walking on the beach barefoot. Man,
yeah, I
it's like,
started with walking, and I definitely was glad I started with walking. I'd take my sons walking down the trail at the end of my street, and one day they had their shoes on, and I usually put my trail runners on, and I got there and I had my thongs on, and that. Now, just to be clear, I have to make this clarification every time I say that for our US listeners. Thongs are sandals, they're flip-flops in Australia, they're not underwear, okay? So I had my flip-flops on, and I took them off and started walking down the trail, and one of my sons said, "What are you doing, Dad?" And I said, I just think I just want to do this barefoot today. I just want to feel the earth. And the second I said that, the two of them stopped and ripped off the shoes, and we did about a 3K walk along the trail, all three of us barefoot. It was really good fun.
magic.
Simple pleasures.
Barefoot
I beg your pardon?
as much as possible. I
Yes.
think kids need to be barefoot for as long as possible.
I totally agree.
Wherever safety is concerned. I mean, within the boundaries of safety, of course.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, speaking of safety for kids, do you want to elaborate a little and tell us about your fear of box jumps?
Oh my God. Yeah. So I was really into the NBA when I was a kid, and I wanted to be able to jump higher. So I used a retaining wall in my backyard, like a brick retaining wall, which was probably about, at the time, like now it would be like the height of my ribs or my hips, somewhere between the hips and my ribs. And I was training myself on my vertical jump, and I'd done a couple of reps, and one I didn't make, so I landed with my shins on the edge. Just cringe warning for anyone with a soft stomach. I landed with my shins on the bleeding edge, quite literally, of the bricks of this retaining wall, both at the same time. And I'm looking at my shins now, and I've still got the scars.
Oh wow!
So I'm very wary of box jumps. And
sorry to make you relive that.
yeah. But I mean, I still do. I love jumping, and I still do box jumps, but I'm always really wary. And we would do box jumps in the gym in Brizzy, but I was always, if someone said they didn't want to do box jumps, I was like, absolutely no problem, that's fine.
Yeah.
We'll find you a regression or a different exercise option in that case.
Oh yeah, that's harrowing. You told that story in between some exercises, and it kind of put me off my workout for a second. Actually, that was right. You were doing an absolutely brutal box jump there in the snow, and every time you landed, you were holding the squat longer and longer, backwards and forwards. Yeah, even as you were doing it, you said, "I don't know why I do this to myself."
I didn't plan that at all.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I was just. I'd filmed this in Oslo in Norway, and my girlfriend and her family, they were just on a lap around the park, and I said, I'll quickly do this workout video. You just come back and get me. And they came back in a quicker time. So I was like, I need to wrap this up. So I just designed this finisher in my head, and I didn't even do it properly. It was like terrible. But I guess the point was that I would jump up onto the box, hold for 1 second, and then on the next rep I would hold for 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And then on the third rep I would hold for 3 seconds. So, and I was like, I just made it up as I went. I was like, oh, this is terrible. And then I was doing the edit, and I was like, oh, who cares? Like, people are probably gonna like this. I feel like a much better job of it than I would. But since then, I actually started kind of integrating it every now and then. And I don't know if there's any science behind it. I haven't really kind of thought about it that much, but it's like it is a good power endurance. I will say
Yeah.
that.
Well, no, it folds back into your earlier point about keeping that kind of keeping under strain for a longer period of time.
Yeah, yeah,
Makes
sure,
sense.
for sure. I'm not sure how well that integrates with with like power, which is supposed to be the main component of that
Oh, I
drill.
see,
But
I see.
yeah,
And
like,
just because
it could be counterintuitive.
was the people that walked past in your video, was that your girlfriend and your relatives?
No, no, they're
Oh,
just some
was it? Oh,
randoms.
okay. Because I just thought that was funny. You said they came back earlier than you thought, and in the video, some people walk past and sit down on that chair.
No, they were just wondering what the hell this weirdo
Yeah,
was
what's this
doing.
weirdo doing out here with this funny accent?
Yeah, I think that was dead in the middle of winter in Oslo, and it was a nice day, but and I think it was probably about like -5 or 6 degrees or something like that. And like you do see people out exercising in Oslo in the winter, but not in the kind of box jump fashion and push-ups and stuff or whatever I was doing in the workout. Most people will just kind of they go running or they go skiing or something.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah,
the more typical sort of pastimes.
yeah,
I've
but
been reading. Actually, what I like about the progression of because it is quite. I mean, you could look at anyone's YouTube channel or website and blog posts and that sort of thing, and you can see a natural progression and a growth of sorts, and improvement. And that's not to say that there's not good stuff back at the start. It's just, and as you alluded to earlier, you put in a lot of effort into your YouTube now, and Craig and I kind of have we can see massive improvements in our stuff as well. But the point I'm getting to is I've also noticed a little bit of a shift in it, and when I say shift, it's to me it's a positive thing, and it's quite an interesting thing. Is you're moving into almost talking a lot about the psychology of some things, rather than just being straight out exercise based kind of workout guy. What I found really interesting was the dopamine fast. Um, that was a written article, wasn't it, or was that a video?
it's both.
It's
Yeah,
both, wasn't
there's a
it? Yeah, there's a blog
blog post on my
post.
website,
That's
but
right. That's
originally it
where
was
I saw
a
it.
video. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I
Mm.
see. So yeah, I couldn't remember which. Yeah, I think I read it, and then as I was scrolling through, I saw a video and I watched that as well. Do you want to unpack that a little bit for us?
Yeah. So I certainly can't be credited of the idea. Probably no one can, I guess. But I got the idea from one of my favorite YouTubers, Nathaniel Drew, and he basically decided that he wanted to do this experiment where he would switch off his phone, no screen time, no music, not even any books for a period of 24 hours. At the same time, he would do a traditional, water fast where you're only drinking water.
Mm-hmm.
And he is an exceptional storyteller and a very deep thinker. And I loved the concept. And as I was watching it, I was realizing, oh, I used to actually do this, or at least I've done it a few times. What I used to do was because I couldn't. I felt in certain times when I was living in Brisbane that I needed space on my own. Excuse me, and I lived with other people, so I couldn't just block everyone out and stay in my room. That'd be incredibly boring. And I was like,
Yep.
I need to get back out into nature. So what I would do is go out to Barney or Tiburawakam. I did that a few times, one of the smaller peaks in the Glasshouse
Yep.
Mountains, and just bring a tent and some water and sleeping bag and everything, and I'd just stay there for 24 hours and not eat and just try and fill my time with just being in the outdoors. And I realized that it had been maybe like 4 years since I'd done that when I when I saw this video, I was like, I really need to pick up this practice again. So I decided to do it at Montserrat because, why not? It's the closest mountain.
Yep.
At the time, I was living in Barcelona. I still do live in Barcelona. I have I'm renting an apartment like right in the middle of the city. Usually when my girlfriend is working, we would be living in the city. But for that experiment, I took the train out to Montserrat, and I spent 24 hours on the mountain, just sitting, like literally in a cave. The one thing I did allow myself is like I took a lemon and just had some lemon water, just because it kind of breaks up the monotony, and it's also, depending on who you ask, like kind of a cleansing kind of agent that's used for the food fasting kind of thing.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
But super, super beneficial. Like I would definitely recommend it on some level to absolutely everybody. Maybe you start with 3 hours, of just not looking at your phone or not doing anything, and then become more comfortable with that. And if you're already someone who's super comfortable in the outdoors, then yeah, just go do it. Like you can survive months. In some cases, I think the longest is a little over a year without eating, So doing 24 hours of fasting and just giving your digestive organs a rest from having to constantly process food, I think is super beneficial. Like this is really well documented in tons of different studies. And then you have the just the mental clarity aspect where you can literally just be in the mountains. And for me, like a lot of the time when I'm out in the mountains, it's there's a goal, there's a target, there's something that I want to achieve. And more recently, I've got to document it as well.
Yep.
So whilst I did document the start and the end and sort of bits and pieces throughout, like I would just turn a camera on and walk away from it and just sit whilst I was doing this dopamine fast. I really tried to make it as pure as possible, where I certainly didn't have my phone connected to the internet, and I wasn't looking at it. I was literally just sitting, journaling, doing some meditation, and just kind of accepting the environment that I was in, and just kind of feeling and trying not to think too much.
I love the mention of the journal there, because it's an outward projection, right? So you're not consuming, you're pushing ideas and thoughts out of your body, and I think that we don't do that enough either. We're too busy consuming somebody else's joy or somebody else's ideas or fun or whatever it might be in different formats, usually through the screen. And I think that's a really cool point that you added that into the mix.
Yeah, well, like as I'm sitting here, my journal is like right in front of me, and I'm certainly no saint. I really do my best to do it every day, but I don't know, the time that I spend just with a pen and a blank page, and I'm not writing poetry,
No,
but
I understand.
nor am I, saying woke up at 6, ate breakfast. Like I'm not saying that either. Like I'm just looking at the page and I have some prompts.
Yep.
And one of my videos goes into the prompts.
Okay, I'll look out for that then.
Maybe we can put it in the link in the description.
Oh, most definitely will, mate. Yeah, let me just.
If you just Google like journaling prompts, there's hundreds. But I think it's kind of like the basis of creativity. You mentioned before about like consumption being such a big part of our lives now, and I think most people are starting to recognize that.
Yep.
And the opposing force of consumption is creation. And you don't necessarily have to be a fine artist. You don't have to make music or paint a painting. The very basis of being creative is just getting in touch with what you feel and what you think, and understanding what's going on within you. And taking prompts from journals is a really good way of doing that. And I think that is a practice that certainly just about everybody could benefit from, I think. And I don't know, there's definitely connotations where people, I even feel a little bit uncomfortable mentioning things like journaling and meditation, because there is this kind of stigma that it's just like it's hippie nonsense, and
Mate,
it's
I'm
like for
totally with you.
You don't have people that have a diary or a journal.
Yep.
That's for like 14-year-old girls,
Yep.
So there's that stigma that we have to move past and realize that introspection is the only way for us to accept who we are and move forward and become better. And without those kind of tools and those journal prompts, things become very difficult, and you look at a blank page and you're just like,
Yeah.
I
also think
I'm going to make breakfast.
That's right, and I think there's a misconception with creativity that the creative, whatever you choose that creative endeavor to be, that somebody needs to see it at the end. Somebody needs to judge it and critique it. That they don't. I've got a journal. I was on and off with it over the last sort of 2 years, and recently I have been developing a morning routine. And again, like I'm going back to your other point there, where you talk about some of these things and people go, oh God, here we go, and talk about breathing techniques or something again. But I think we've got an audience that is open-minded enough to give us that flexibility to and I'm just totally honest about it. I've been writing a lot more in my journal as part of a morning routine that includes walking out into the backyard, rain, hail or shine. With we're hitting winter now. I'll walk out there with no shoes on, shorts, and sometimes a t-shirt. I'll do some burpees, whatever, some lunges, some of the stuff you're doing, and then I'll come in and I'll jump straight into a cold shower. After that, I'll do Wim Hof breathing, which I'm sure you're familiar with your background. And then I'll sit down and write in my journal and make a coffee or something. So I've been really trying to do that. And I do have those moments that you mentioned before where you say, I got up and I, did this at 6:05 and I cleaned my teeth. Sometimes I have to start with that to get past it. Sometimes I just start with whatever's just purging out of my head, and then it naturally takes me into a kind of a more thoughtful place. But I like the idea of the prompts, and I'll definitely check that out, and I'll definitely find your... did you say it was a video or an article or both?
It's a video, and it's the one that I made at the very start of the pandemic when we went into lockdown.
Okay.
I think
I'll find that and I'll definitely post it.
To,
yeah, but, that's great.
In any case, if anyone listens to, I'm sure people are familiar with Tim Ferriss.
Yep.
It's just completely ripped off from Tim Ferriss. It's the same process that he uses.
But I like listening to you, mate. Tim's got that. Nothing against the American twang, but
No, I really like that.
This morning, I gave it a crack, and I wasn't really feeling it, but I did write something down, and it's just very rewarding to be able to flip back through it and see, okay, I wrote something here.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
Have you ever flicked back? Like I flicked back to a year ago, just recently. I've never actually flicked back through the writing. I don't know why, but I did it recently, and I was somewhat impressed with some of the things I managed to get on paper. I was almost fascinated by. I felt like I was reading somebody else's journal, and because I couldn't remember what I'd done that day or what I'd written about, and I found it a little bit fascinating.
Oh, it is incredibly fascinating. when you have, or you get to reflect back on who you were and what you did on a certain day,
Yeah.
because your mind, there's no reason for your mind to retain that information.
No, that's a good
We
point.
have so much input all the time. Like, you're not going to remember what you did on a
Yeah.
day in 2012. Like,
Yeah, that's a really good point.
it's so cool. It's a very rewarding part of that process. And like I said before, it doesn't have to be, um, you know, creative writing. It's just the process of watching your thoughts, paying attention, and making a note of it somehow. And I'm looking at mine now, and it's like 5 lines most days, 5 or 6 lines, and that's like probably the bare minimum. I should do more, but I don't know. It's so rewarding for me to be able to look back on these, and I've done this throughout my life in like different levels of consistency. But the earliest one I think was from 2004,
Yeah.
which was like a travel journal. And so I've still got that, and I can look back on all these and just like see how naive I was, and like how like emotionally unstable I was. And it's like, it's a great learning process. Like, if we don't have our past to compare us to, how can we know that we're improving and moving forward? It's the
Yeah, no,
same.
it's
It's the
very
same way of
interesting.
having.
Right.
Yeah, but we
I'd,
are getting crazy deep now.
I'd be way too
Are we taking you into a
nervous.
scary place, Chase?
Yeah.
Before we like move on from the journaling thing and like take it back to like fitness and training, just noting what you have done in your training, even if it's just like scribbling down in a journal. I ran 5Ks today, felt good.
Yep.
And the next day I did some strength training, and you start to see these patterns of like that. You have to look back through that stuff and understand what works for you, because I give people programming in the programs that I sell, but there's 7 billion different bodies on this world. That
Yeah.
program is not going to be the perfect program.
Yep.
Even though it's called Kilimanjaro program or whatever. It's not the perfect program for Kilimanjaro. The perfect program for you is the one that you enjoy, the one that you carry out, and the one that you bring some analysis to. And so the journaling really comes a very important part of that, because without the reflection, we have no idea whether we're improving or not.
Yeah, a lot of people in to serious fitness, they're always taking measurements and doing all sorts of things, and even people. I I do it to a certain degree myself with trail running. I'm always trying to kind of do the same circuit and beat the time, or at least meet the time, or if I don't make the time, why didn't I make the time? Is it because that day the trail was muddy and I had to slow down? Okay, there's some data there that we can unpack and look back on. But as you say, if you don't have any data, you've got nothing to reflect on. It makes it more difficult.
For sure.
No, I've never done any journaling, guys. I did actually when I had here we go, my ankle problem again. I was doing some runs, and I'd actually write down when I got back about the point in time when it would give me a bit of trouble or whatever.
Like a timestamp on where.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, that's
it was
clever.
Actually really helpful. But as far as journaling, some of this emotional and thoughtful stuff, I've never really done that, but I did enjoy that conversation, guys, because I think we all do like to take things sometimes to that next level, and we look for something that we can add to our sort of approach. And you going out doing this solo sort of overnight thing, 24 hours, I think you've amped that up. We're taking no food and just a water fast, and journaling. What a great idea, man. I'm really interested in that. I think that sounds great.
It's interesting you say that, Craig, because Chase Craig's he's written tons of songs, writes a lot of music. That's how we first met each other. We used to play in a band a long time ago. And Craig, I just think it's a creative channel that's possibly untapped for you, because you are a creative guy, and your lyrics are fantastic. Like you're a really good storyteller. So I think it's something you need to give a try.
Yeah, well, I've got books I've written words and stuff in. I guess that's journaling, but I'd love to get an insight into how you guys are writing down what you've done during the day and what you've thought and stuff, like in sentences and stuff.
It's strange. It's strange explaining it. We are getting deep. We are getting deep. It's strange explaining it. It's stranger reading back on it.
I wouldn't want to read back on what I wrote 10 years ago.
No, I didn't. I didn't read back. Like I said,
I don't think I could.
I'd
find it really, really hard, really confronting, I think.
I'll keep it. I hope my sons read it one day.
Wow,
there's
yeah.
stuff about them in that. Like I mean, if we want to get real deep, like there's tons of stuff in there where I'll talk about how I'm feeling as a parent, as a father. But this stuff is just, I can't write fast enough. I'm trying to write fast to keep up with this stuff that's just kind of spewing out of my head. Don't expect it to be pretty, but like Chase was just saying, sometimes you flick back and there's a little nugget of gold, one little sentence in amongst the whole page of, arguably rubbish. And so I think that makes it all worthwhile.
Yeah, no, it's just output, isn't it? It's creative. It's an output from
it's
us.
just purging.
However, like I used to get my phone and just play little licks on the guitar and just record them and stuff, and then no one ever hears it, but sometimes I will listen back to it, or I'll remember it, I'll develop it into something else. I think that's a great idea.
Oh, nice.
Voice notes are another way to do that if you're not really into the journaling thing. Like you can literally just click the voice recorder and just talk to yourself. It sounds so weird, but I've like done that. I don't do that as a regular thing, but I've discovered some from like a year or two ago, and I'm like, oh my God. And like you said before, it's confronting. Like
It is.
Listening to yourself, like you would hope to God that no one ever found this and published it. You would be, even though you're not like saying anything that's particularly.
I know what you mean.
To who you are or whatever, but it's embarrassing, and so I think like what you're saying about being confronting, that's the whole purpose. Like it's the whole point. Like if we aren't confronting ourselves and keeping ourselves accountable, then we will not improve.
No.
And that's the essence of like fitness is improvement. So it is like one of the key factors of self-improvement. So the reason why I talk about it pretty much at every start of every video, I say this channel is about improving your mind, your body, and your gear, so you can get out the mountains and discover something about yourself and challenge yourself. So,
and you've got a fantastic article there too on the 6 practical ways to build mental strength for the mountains.
Yeah, I want to do a video about that one, but I guess there's a big hole in my channel is that I haven't really shared much of the mental side yet. Like that dopamine fast video is a big one, but I've got a couple coming out soon. You mentioned the Wim Hof method before. I'm going to do a video about my experience with the Wim Hof method.
I'd love to see that. I'd be really interested in seeing, obviously somebody whose content, already respect your kind of views, and I'd be really interested to know how you feel about that. So there's a absolutely crazy photograph of you. It's on the mental strength article of you just immersing yourself in this small rectangle. Is it a lake or a river?
It's a frozen lake in the north of Sweden.
It's a rectangle about. It's smaller than a bathtub, and someone's kind of bolted or sat like a pool ladder on the edge, right?
Yeah.
And you're just up to up to your shoulders, sitting in it. That's insane, mate.
That's tough, dude.
Well done.
It's like people look at that and they think that's mentally tough, but I don't know. Like I don't necessarily think of myself as being super mentally tough. What I did was I did something every single day, and that was the Wim Hof method.
Yep.
And I did that because because I wanted to understand if it could help me for mountaineering and cold exposure and going into like environmentally violent places that want to kill me.
Yeah.
So like, I had a really bad experience, two really bad experiences where I was underprepared in terms of layering, or just put myself in very, very cold environments, and I really suffered, not just in that moment, but I felt that when I came home, and even when I had a hot shower, put myself under hot water, when I dried my hands freezing cold at the hut near Blue Lake, which is pretty much the only place where you can do ice climbing in Australia. I got back to that hut. Thankfully, it was open. I stood under the hairdryer and just kept punching the button on the hairdryer for about 15 minutes, and I was physically incapable from moving away from the hairdryer because I was so unable to control my own body temperature. And I had a couple of situations like that I realized, like, I need to get control of this. Like, I can't let something like that control me when I'm in a dangerous environment, because I know that it's just like, it doesn't feel like physiology to me. It feels like something that is a mental issue that I can grasp. And when I heard about Wim Hof method, I think it was like 10 years ago, someone sent me an email about it, and I was like, cool, whatever. I just kind of ignored it. I was like, that looks interesting. There's a guy that swims under ice and stuff. But when I started implementing it was like my girlfriend is Swedish Norwegian, and we were going to a cabin of a family friend up in the north of Sweden. They had this lake, and I was like, yes, this is the thing that's going to make me get up every morning and do the Wim Hof method and like establish a routine, which I've always, to be honest, kind of struggled with, like getting that morning routine down. But the Wim Hof method just drove me it really drove me into dedication like I've never been in before, because I knew, I was doing a 10-week course. I only had 6 weeks. I was like, I need to ace this course because I'm getting in that lake no matter what.
Is that the Wim Hof method? Is that related to that book that you read where we therefore?
That's correct.
And I had some cold showers. But there was more to it than that in the method?
There's
having a cold shower in the morning.
He says there's 3 elements to it. I see 2 key elements, and that's the exposure to cold.
Yeah.
And then the breathing techniques. He
holding his breath for long periods. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. He also adds the a meditation aspect too. I think, Chase, would you agree? He kind of has 3 pillars, whereas I tend to work off the cold and the breathing. But let's just this is me just giving my opinion, not even my opinion, my experiences. This is not Chase telling you what to do, listeners. But at the moment, I'm doing 3 rounds of breathing. At the end of each round, you hold your breath. You hold your breath on a completely empty lungs, right? So you do your 30 breaths, breathe everything out, and I can get to around 3 minutes 20 is where I'm at the moment with empty lungs.
When have you been doing this?
Years.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was doing before the last Tassie trip.
With all that
plus the cold training.
Exposure to cold training, which you were talking heaps about. Oh, far out.
And so recently I had a big break from it, and then recently I'm back up to 3 minutes 20. But if I take a deep breath on top of that, I'm over 4 minutes now. I'm over like 4 minutes 15 or something. So, and you could testify to this, Chase. It's not uncomfortable time. It's very pleasant time, at least in my opinion.
Really?
And in fact, I don't think you should be. If you're experiencing discomfort, then you probably should stop.
Yeah, fair call.
I think Wim's pretty clear about that in the training. But yeah, the whole idea is like to be comfortable with that feeling, because how often do we really hold our breath? Like when we're kids, we're mucking around in the pool in the backyard, we try and hold our breath for 30 seconds or whatever. And then I think if we go real primal on that's probably something that we're designed to be able to do,
Yeah.
because we were designed to fish and collect shellfish, and we're designed to be in the water at least for a small amount of time to be able to find resources. So
Yeah. Well, we've got
I
that
think it's
mammalian, is it the mammalian reflex? As soon as your mouth and nose go underwater, it triggers some primal instinct like that.
yeah. I think
But,
if you throw like a baby into a pool, and I'm not advising anyone to
yeah, especially, if it's just somebody's baby you don't know.
We're going to need a few more disclaimers here.
Yeah, there's going to be a fair few disclaimers.
Go to the show notes, guys.
sorry, I got it.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ready. It's all right, mate. We do this all the time. There's a lot of people that don't like us out there for what we say.
Well, I'm impressed, guys. That's hardcore that you guys are able to.
No, let Chase finish. He's talking about throwing babies.
Yeah, come on. What happens next?
Well, you guys are around my age. Just think of the cover of the Nirvana.
Nirvana,
album.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
straight away. That came to
Baby
mind.
in the pool. Baby's super chill.
Yeah.
Baby's is not under any kind of stress. That reflex is to be calm and to understand that you can hold your breath for 30 to 60 seconds without any training.
Yeah.
Most of us can.
Yeah.
And with 5 minutes of training, that can be a lot longer, So
Yeah, I agree. That's a really interesting point with 5 minutes of training. You could literally, Craig, I could get you to hold your breath. I won't do it now because it's awkward. After this, I could get you to hold your breath. I could show you something for 5 to 10 minutes, just like Chase said, and then you could double it. I just guarantee it. Like, it's that simple. And I'm sorry I butted in on you again, Chase, but I just want to, when you've you've over oxygenated your blood supply, then you've emptied your lungs. At that moment, I was saying to my wife the other day, that time is the most pleasant time of my entire day. That what's the grouping I do is a 30-second, 1 minute, and then in the last round I go for as long as I can, which is around the 3 minutes 20. That time is the most pleasant time of my day because I'm not even worried about breathing. I'm literally laying there just chilled.
Yeah.
No, my mind is blown. I had no idea you're doing this stuff, man.
So no, Craig knows I jump in cold water. I hadn't ever really explained the breathing element to him.
Super valuable practice, and I'm glad we're talking about it because I haven't done it that frequently over the last maybe like 6 months, but I usually do it in preparation for winter, just because there's almost no point doing it here in Spain in summer, and even like in Australia, like it's very you turn the cold tap on in Brisbane in the middle of the summer, and it's still going to be a hot shower.
Yeah, no. I mean, I still see an advantage to the breathing side of it, but you're right about the water.
Yeah. I think the only reason I absolutely love it, it's probably a bit of a spoiler alert on my opinion of Wim Hof, but I do absolutely love it. The only reason why I'm not doing it consciously sort of every day is because it does take a little bit of time, and I'm super pressed for time, and I'm doing both strength training and aerobic capacity training at the moment, and so much of my day already is training that it's just an extra 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Mate, it'll come back when you want it to come back. When you need it. When you need it, you'll just start leaning on it again. It's always there.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, I don't want you to do a spoiler on your own video about your experience, but I did the overland track by myself, and the listeners are sick of hearing this, but I'll make it brief. I was very, very affected by the cold on that trip. It was in between that trip and the next trip that I discovered Wim Hof, and I went down there and I absolutely destroyed it. Absolutely. There's a photograph of me. So I was filming a documentary, and I knew that I had to be not affected by the cold. I had work to do. I had to be fit, strong, agile, and I had to be able to sit there for 10 minutes without moving and adapt. And so there's a photo of me with a short sleeve shirt on, and it's snowing. It's just, and I'm not even saying I'm anything special. All I'm saying is that's for me, that was the proof. And we went back when I took Craig for the third time. I did the overland. He came down and managed to wrangle him into jumping into the lake.
A little swim. Yeah.
The lake at the bottom of Barn Bluff.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I jumped in there, and Craig was abusing me because I was trying to tell him to get in there. And there's actually a very funny section of a podcast where we were recording the audio of the whole event. But that was a good time. But yeah.
Lucky that video's never made it out, eh?
Oh, that video's on my hard drive.
Yeah.
And
Get it out there. I know you guys have got a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have started knocking up that video. There'll be a fair bit of blurring out, though, in those particular scenes. So we'll just have to work on that. Haven't had to do that before.
Yeah.
Hey, Chase, sort of to kind of round this out, I was wondering if you wanted to give us a little rundown on, well, in particular, I guess, the Elements program that you've put together. I guess give us describe to the listeners what that is, and also I'm keen to hear what was the catalyst for putting that together.
So the Elements program covers 4 of the elements that I believe are most important when you're first beginning. So, like, things to get right from day one, essentially. The most important one is your aerobic training. So this is around developing aerobic base. We go into discovering a little bit more of heart rate zones and how that relates to our experience in the mountains, whether it's hiking or mountaineering. Then we have strength. So I provide a couple of basic strength routines that are very similar to what you see on my YouTube channel, but go into far more detail of each move. And we really talk about specifically what you should be feeling as you're doing those exercises.
Yep.
But again, very, very basic stuff. I designed this so that my grandmother could do it.
Rightio.
I wanted anyone to be able to do this.
But
I have a very,
as you mentioned before, like, these are the sorts of things an experienced person can ramp this up, or for the likes of Craig and I, we could ramp up and go back to the basics and try and get better form.
Yeah, the idea. I mean, what I wanted to do with Elements is put all of the basic information in there that would allow someone to kind of be their own coach. And it is both, like, it's a 2 different PDFs. One is like I think it's like 10,000 words. So it's kind of like it's a book, basically.
Oh, okay.
And then the program itself, which is a smaller PDF with links to the videos and everything. And I'm actually still contributing more into that program.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, so I put a new video in there about aerobic training, because I think aerobic training is something that people just don't kind of get. And I wrote a 4,500 word blog post on aerobic training, and I know people aren't going to read that. So I wanted to create a video around that, just because it's a very consumable, very much easier way to understand that really sometimes technical kind of sciencey information.
Yeah, hey, that's something that you're, as I said before, you do that well in your videos. You've got your human body there, and you're talking through very specific movements and pointing to joints, demonstrating the right and wrong way. At least from everything I've seen, I think it's a good medium. And so if somebody gets that package, they have access to kind of everything that sits within that. Is that how that works? The membership to that?
Yeah, and it's not a membership. It's I wanted this program to be basically the first step for everyone who comes into my training in some way.
Yep.
So in a way, I wanted to like give as much as I could, blow people away with both information and quality within this program. I wanted it to be essentially like it is a book primarily, but with a how-to guide of how to implement some of this stuff. And at the moment, it's like $10 because I brought it out during the time of the start of the epidemic, and I was like, oh, I feel weird like releasing a program when everyone like the world is like in turmoil. And I was like, just put it up for $10.
Well, that's what I liked about it. When I started researching all of it, I thought, well, that's actually quite a kind gesture in itself to say, hey, everyone's doing it tough. Here's something that's obviously valued a lot more than that. You've got years of experience, but I thought it was pretty cool, mate.
Although I should say that it's $10, not 10 Australian dollars. So anyone who's thinking like,
Australians
yes,
like, oh damn, that's $95.
Yeah, 95.
It's like that's not even 2 schooners. Like, yeah, so, yeah, it's $10, which who knows? God, I don't know what's going on with the American economy right now. Who knows how much 10 Australian dollars is? But so it's $10. And the other two elements that are in there are core strength, which is, I can't overstate how important that is. I think I probably haven't even gone into enough detail in this program about how important it is. But what we do in the program is a 15-minute deep core activation, which is less of a workout and more of a discovery movement process where you are doing some movements with your arms and your upper body whilst trying to maintain very deep core stability within your torso. And that's basically what core. I think of core as like any muscle that connects to the pelvis or any muscle that is obviously a core muscle, like your obliques and your abdominals and all the rest of that. Pretty much anything between your knees and your shoulders.
Yeah.
So
You've got a
functional core strength as opposed to like getting a 6-pack or whatever.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. You seem to have a bit of a favorite thing, and I've seen this pop up a couple of times. I find it actually a little bit interesting / fascinating, and I've been adopting it myself. Is this thing where you get into, I think sometimes you do it in a push-up position, but you also do it on your hands and knees, and you're basically activating that center of the spine between the shoulder blades, and you kind of really, you said, look, if you're doing a push-up without this, you're not really doing a push-up. Do you know what I'm referring to very badly there?
Yeah, I imagine you're referring to the erector spinae or activation of the rhomboids in the erector spinae, which is, if you kind of think about it, like the muscles that wrap around the spinal cord and support the spinal cord in the upper body, but also the muscles that control scapular protraction and retraction.
Yeah, so that's the one. Yeah, that's exactly
moving forward and back of your shoulder blade. So that's super important. The cat-cow is the movement, which is a common movement in yoga that pretty much anyone would have seen before. So I like to put that at pretty much the start of pretty much every single like daily mobility kind of drill.
That's probably why I've seen it a few times now.
Yeah, I just hammer it into people because it's one of those movements that is, and pretty much every movement, every strength movement is like this. If you find it easy, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, fair call.
So I can still make it hard now, even though I've been doing it for years. The more focus you put in, the harder it becomes.
Yeah.
And that's the case with a lot of the movements in the Elements program.
I don't want to sound like I'm just just saying this because of the podcast or whatever. But our listeners know that we don't say stuff that for the sake of it. But I have been kind of focusing on that for about a week and a half. Not every single day, but just in the last sort of 4 days, I've felt a little bit of, how would you say it? Not just increased mobility through the shoulder blades. I can kind of just, I don't know, it just feels good. I guess in unison with the breathing techniques and stuff, it's nice to just be able to open everything up and not really be restricting that by tight muscles as well. So I think it all kind of folds back into each other.
Yeah. The one thing that I'm like still very much a beginner in is how our breathing muscles affect how deeply and how and the quality of our breath.
Mm-hmm.
So those like the erectus spinae and the muscles that are involved in that movement are super crucial to supporting or their accessory breathing muscles.
Yeah.
And your major breathing muscles are your diaphragm. So the one thing that I really want to get into and find my own way of practicing and passing this on is the relationship between diaphragmatic breathing and altitude sickness.
Oh wow!
I think that's going to be super interesting, perhaps controversial when I release that, because everyone's looking for a solution to altitude that doesn't involve hiring an altitude tent, and sleeping in a tent for however long, 2 months or something.
Yeah, and I noticed you were talking at one of your videos is almost like a when to and when not to use the sickness tablets from memory.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's controversial too.
A whole video about Diamox. Yeah, controversial because I'm not a doctor and I shouldn't be giving medical advice, but it is literally just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And my experience with leading trips in the Himalayas and my experience with how I feel when I take Diamox, how my people in my trips have reacted when they've taken it and if they haven't taken it and all that kind of thing. And it's really just dumping all the information on you and letting you decide whether you want to take it or not. And that's probably the best thing I could do under the circumstances.
That's fair enough. In a way, it's better to hear that than somebody who's either paid to talk about that product or a doctor who's never actually hiked or even been at altitude. So I think everyone should take all kind of angles and then work it out anyway. I mean, we say stuff, we give advice on this show all the time, mate. Don't worry about it. We don't know what we're talking about. It's all good. I give life advice, and I don't even know how to run my own life.
Completely unsolicited
it's all good.
Advice about.
Oh yeah. The first 6 minutes,
meditating.
The first 6 minutes of this whole podcast will just be caveats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they probably won't release it for 6 months because I'll have to get lawyers involved.
Yeah.
Hey, you and I have been talking about some kind of a giveaway for the. I haven't even told Craig about this, Chase. We were talking about.
Doesn't surprise me.
I like to surprise him with things. Talking about giving away a couple of the Elements programs that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but you were talking about 5. Are we on the money there?
Yeah, let's do 5. We'll give 5 Elements ebook / programs away to anyone who goes and follows me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And comments on this podcast, right?
Yeah. So they would, I always, on our Hike All Day Facebook and Instagram, I'll always, let the listeners know that the next podcast is out. And so if they jump on either Facebook or after they've followed you on Instagram, if they jump on either Facebook or Instagram, and you had quite an interesting thing that to tell us what hike they're planning to do after they get out of quarantine if they haven't already been.
Yeah. I mean, I should say you don't have to have a goal to do this program. It's very much a long-term, like it's roughly like 4 to 6 weeks of things you could implement, maybe more. It's a very loose arrangement, but it is a very good introduction, I feel, to just understanding the basics, and that's why I positioned it on the market more as a book than an educational resource rather than a program. But having said that, there's the next step in the process is going to be released very soon, and that's called Hike Strong, and that is really where we start to dive into individualizing movements and developing strong movement patterns that relate to hiking and mountaineering. So,
mate,
awesome.
Get it into you. That's it. So they better get themselves into elements so they can be ready for the next phase.
That's the idea.
Yeah, I like it. All right, mate. Well, I will obviously relay all those details in to the listeners and let them get their hands on the.
What is your
elements.
Instagram handle, mate? What is it?
So that's Chase_Mountains. Is that correct?
Correct.
Facebook is one word, Basecamp Fit. Is that where you'd like people to go?
Yeah, you can check out if you just type in Basecamp Training. That is our Facebook. But I don't. To be perfectly honest, I don't share a lot of that on that page at the moment. I'm kind of working towards doing that, but I share the vast majority of my really valuable content on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And I usually post. I will pass on every YouTube video to the Basecamp Training Facebook page. So
cool. And the website's obviously basecamptraining.com.au.
Yes, that's correct.
So as I said, I'll do show notes. I'll put all of these links in there. What I liked about your Instagram, and as I said earlier, this is what the kind of catalyst was for me digging deeper into there was, there's this cool guy who does hiking and climbing. I like his photos. And then I noticed you started putting some segments of your training videos on Instagram, and that was good because it reminded me, well, first of all, it introduced me to the videos, but it also reminds me when you put out new stuff. So I think you're doing a good job on Instagram there, and that's definitely where people can see what's going on.
That's really generous of you, Chase, mate. And and with your time tonight.
Yeah, thanks mate. Thanks for letting us dig a little deep there, mate.
Pick your brain a bit.
Tell about some nuggets.
A little bit of traumatic stuff in there, I'm
Went
sure.
Fairly deep in parts.
Yeah. Everyone's going to be out. There's going to be a spike in journal sales next week. Worldwide.
And silicon bread baking apparatus.
Oh yeah, they're gonna go, what the heck, silicon? I'm into that.
Make sure you get an affiliate link on that one. Sell some.
Yeah, I better.
Goods.
Yeah, I better get some kind of thing going with that. Wouldn't hurt. Mate, it's as Craig said, Craig's already done a good job there. Really appreciate your time. It's been as much fun as I thought it would be. I've been looking forward to this one for a few weeks now. To be honest, a few months. Even before I spoke to you, I thought that this is a guy I'm going to try and wrangle and sweet talk into spending some time with us. So I do appreciate you working in with our time zone and everything. And I look forward. Mate. I look forward to keep following your adventures.
Thanks, guys. This long form content is probably the most important thing for the world right now, for us to have these kind of discussions, deep or surface level. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Oh no, it's 100% our pleasure, and I'm glad you feel that way. And if it was an opportunity for you to kind of get into some territory where you have the opportunity to take your time and explain, then everyone wins.
It's been great, mate. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much, guys.
Look after yourself, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. I'll let you know when this bad boy hits the airwaves. If you're listening to this podcast on iTunes, we'd really appreciate your ratings and comments if you can spare the time. If you'd like to know more about HikeordieTV, and keep track of our adventures around Australia, make sure you drop by HikeordieTV.com. That's where you'll find all the information you'll need to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or Pinterest. As always, we appreciate your support. Thanks for listening.